Two figures soared up into the sky and smashed into each other, unleashing a heaven-shaking explosion. As a result, the black clouds covering the sky were blasted away, and then a blinding light made everyone turn away. It was the sunlight that had not been seen on the Martial Heaven continent in a long time. Ever since the Dark Era had begun, the Martial Heaven continent had been covered in black clouds, turning the world into endless dusk with no night or day. With one punch from Long Chen and the Dragon Woman, the layer of black clouds was destroyed, revealing the blazing sun. The warmth that they had missed for a long time entered their hearts once more. Long Chen and the Dragon Woman stared at each other beneath this blazing sun. From the ground, the others could see the two of them with the sun as background, their auras both climbing. Even the sun became illusory in the twisted space around them. "I'll give you one last chance. Hand over the essence blood," shouted the Dragon Woman. Long Chen's gaze gradually grew colder. His killing intent was no longer just from his own anger but also being summoned from his blood. The true dragon essence blood in his veins would not permit that he suffered such a humiliation. As for this foolish woman, she had yet to realize that her actions were causing the will of the true dragon inside of him to slowly rise. "Long Chen, control yourself. Revealing your trump cards for this woman is completely worthless. Those four fellows might be allied with you for now, but they aren't really on your side," warned Evil Moon. Long Chen didn't need Evil Moon's reminder to know that the divine families could not be trusted, especially with Long Outyin and the others' current actions. They were just standing there with no intention of helping. However, this woman made it so that he couldn't control his anger. On the other hand, the Dragon Woman's fury also rose when Long Chen refused to respond to her. She then sent a claw toward Long Chen. Space was instantly torn apart. Her hand had transformed into a claw at some point without him being aware. At the same time, Long Chen hastily blocked, only for a sharp pain to be transmitted from his fist. Fresh blood then dripped down his hand. Long Chen's fist was hard enough to block divine items, but it was unable to block her dragon claw. The Dragon Woman licked his blood off of her claw, smiling in rapture. However, in Long Chen's eyes, that was exceedingly insulting. His blood began to rumble as if it were about to explode. "Since you refuse to hand over the essence blood, I'll have to take it myself." The Dragon Woman once more attacked. Both her claws were now falling, reaching toward him. Long Chen's foot suddenly swung toward her abdomen. Looking at his attack, the Dragon Woman sneered and sent one claw toward Long Chen's face and another toward his chest. Neither of her moves was defensive. "You're playing this game with the human race? Do you know how foolish you are?" Long Chen sneered. His foot suddenly turned, striking her claw. Bang! Astral winds exploded and sparks flew. Long Chen's scales were broken due to just how sharp her claws were, but they were unable to penetrate any deeper. However, Long Chen didn't care about that injury. At this moment, he grabbed her wrist and pulled her arm. Just like that, the Dragon Woman's arm cracked. He had exchanged injury for injury. As a result, the Dragon Woman's expression changed. Her other hand reached toward Long Chen's neck, trying to force him to retreat. Long Chen did retreat, but he didn't let go. In front of countless shocked gazes, Long Chen pulled her arm off from her shoulder, unleashing a spray of blood. "How vicious!" Long Chen tossed the arm to the Dragon Blood Legion. As it fell, it transformed into a giant dragon claw. Wild immediately let out a delighted cry and grabbed it, immediately starting to munch on it. "Ah!" The Dragon Woman let out a terrible shriek, part pain and part fury. Her arm quickly grew back. After that, her horns lit up, and a black ripple spread. "This Dragon Woman has gone crazy. She's using her core essence blood," shouted Evil Moon. A bone whip suddenly appeared in her hand, looking like a pitch-black dragon's spine. As she wielded it, a horrible aura filled the world, one that made everyone feel like an ancient beast had suddenly emerged. "Die!" She furiously swung her whip at Long Chen. Thousands of whip images filled the air, leaving him with nowhere to run. Long Chen didn't dare to block it with his bare hands because it gave him a hair-raising feeling. Therefore, he summoned Evil Moon in his hand. Explosions rang out as Evil Moon repeatedly met with the Dragon Bone Whip, An intense light filled the sky. Boom. The whip images vanished, revealing Long Chen with blazing killing intent and Evil Moon with black cheese swirling around it. At this moment, Evil Moon was in the heaven's wrath state, looking as if a fiend that had been sealed for millions of years had been unleashed. Dark Evil Dragon. The dragon woman's expression changed because she recognized this aura. She was familiar with Evil Moon's aura because the black dragon race was close to the evil dragon race. As a matter of fact, she was from the emperor race of the black dragons, just like the dark evil dragon was the emperor of the evil dragons. For this reason, she was especially shocked. Long Chen had not only obtained the approval of the true dragon, but he even had a divine weapon created from the dark evil dragon's bone, blood, and soul. Girl, if you're smart, you'll leave immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for starting a slaughter, said Evil Moon coldly. Evil Moon's name was famous on the martial heaven continent, but they only viewed it as a terrifying evil weapon that Long Chen had subdued. It rarely spoke out loud to others. Hence, when its sinister, dark, berserk, and bloodthirsty voice rang out, even the people on Long Chen's side felt like hell had suddenly manifested in the world. Their bodies grew ice-cold. As the emperor of the evil dragon race, you are willing to be used by the human race? What happened to your dignity? Roared the dragon woman. In the face of the dragon woman's questioning, Evil Moon coldly snorted, Long Chen is a true son of the heavens, the heir of the true dragon. Do you really think that the dragon scale was a masterless item? What a joke. It was a gift specifically left to Long Chen by a mysterious existence. Long Chen could obtain the approval of a true dragon, so of course he can obtain my approval. As for you, despite being the emperor of the black dragon race, you associate yourself with these fish. You've practically lost all the face of the dragon race. When did he become the true son of the heavens? Long Chen was surprised to hear such nonsense come from Evil Moon's mouth. When did Evil Moon become so shameless as to raise his status to cover up its own embarrassment? When Evil Moon was done, the dragon woman was trembling with rage. After that, black dragon marks appeared in her eyes, and her aura grew increasingly frightening. Girl, as fellow members of the dragon race, I'd advise you not to try using your divine ability. The current you have yet to reach the necessary realm to use it. You will destroy your own foundation. Even if you do use it, you won't be able to kill Long Chen. Do you think that everyone else here is powerless? Sneered Evil Moon. Evil Moon could see through her actions. It knew that she wanted to use one of her terrifying divine abilities, but that was meaningless. Even if she was able to defeat Long Chen, there was still the High Priest, Taoist Heavenly Feather, and the others present. If she wanted to kill Long Chen, it would only be an idiot's dream. At that time, she would have failed to kill Long Chen and then also suffered a backlash. If that harmed her foundation, it would be too late for regret. Right now, the dragon woman trembled from rage. However, she had no choice but to admit that Evil Moon was correct. She couldn't kill Long Chen, nor could she take his essence blood. Furthermore, the price of using this divine ability was immense. For a moment, she could only tremble. Now that things had reached this point, it was difficult for her to stop. Leaving just like this? She was unwilling as she couldn't lose that much face. She had confidence that her divine ability could defeat Long Chen. But defeating and killing someone were two different concepts. In the end, she would have gained nothing. The suffocating feeling of having power but not daring to use it almost drove her insane. Dragon Lady, this was a misunderstanding. Since we're all living on the martial heaven continent, it's not good for us to fight amongst ourselves. In this time when we're surrounded by powerful enemies, it would be better for everyone to set our differences aside. We can sit down and peacefully discuss things, don't you think? At this moment, Long Outyin finally spoke up. This was equivalent to giving the dragon woman a chance to step down. However, she still said, there is nothing to discuss. I waited tens of thousands of years for the Azure Dragon Essence blood, so Long Chen must split half of it with me. But today, I'll give face to the divine families and temporarily leave things like this for today. She then turned to Long Chen. However, don't think that this matter is over. When I ascend into a Dragon King, I'll fight with you once more. The winner is king. I don't care if you're the son of the heavens or the true dragon's heir, I will still take your essence blood. What is mine belongs to me, and no one can take it. Longchen, you really are an unlucky star. Wherever you go, you find enemies. Don't you think you should reflect upon yourself? Said Yi Liangchen sinisterly. Does your face not hurt? Longchen turned to Yi Liangchen and looked at him curiously. Everyone fell deathly silent and looked at Yi Liangchen oddly. When Longchen and the others had returned from the star-field divine world, Yi Liangchen had chosen to attack him, even saying that he would defeat Longchen in an instant. As a result, he had yet to even finish speaking before he was sent flying by a slap from Longchen. Asking him if his face didn't hurt? Everyone immediately thought of that resounding slap. Standing beside Yi Liangchen, Feng Fei almost laughed. This response from Longchen was truly perfect. Yi Liangchen's tongue might be vicious, but it seemed that he couldn't match Longchen. As a result, Yi Liangchen turned ashen. He unsheathed his sword and pointed it at Longchen. Longchen, last time I was merely careless. Do you really think that you're qualified to fight me? Longchen had picked at his wound in front of all the top experts of the Martial Heaven continent, almost driving Yi Liangchen crazy. Although Yi Liangchen was infuriated, Longchen was indifferent. His scales vanished and he returned to his normal state, faintly smiling. Is your head not good, or are your ears broken? I asked you if your face hurt because I care about you. After all, the raging astral winds and flying dust can easily irritate a person's face. Why did you suddenly go berserk? Did you think of some bad memories? Everyone looked at Longchen speechlessly. It would be strange if anyone believed him. However, Yi Liangchen definitely deserved it. Why would he have to provoke Longchen like he had nothing else to do? Wasn't that asking to be slapped? Despite that, many people were also worried about this exchange. After all, the Martial Heaven continent had recently resumed working with the divine families. If their relationship was fractured once more, there probably wouldn't be time to repair things. Therefore, people looked from Yi Liangchen to Longchen. They almost knelt and begged the two of them to stop messing around and calmly face their common enemies. If they had this much energy, why didn't they burn it off by killing some extra invaders? As though he could hear their thoughts, Long Outyin suddenly said, "We came here to welcome the original devil race back to the Martial Heaven continent. Let us work together. Hopefully, everyone here can unite against our common enemy. We will protect the Martial Heaven continent and our families from the pain of war." After saying that, Long Outyin walked back onto the chariot, followed by Feng Fei and Jiang Wuchen. As for Yi Liangchen, although he gnashed his teeth, he also put away his sword and entered the chariot. After that, the chariot whistled away, vanishing. Looking at this scene, Longchen shrugged, acting innocent. Everyone had seen how they had provoked him first. It had nothing to do with him. Right now, the divine families had expressed their attitude, having welcomed the original devil race back. Therefore, those still harboring suspicions were forced to keep their mouths shut when it came to the original devil race. As for those who supported Longchen, they felt even more confident in him. If even the divine families supported him, then there should be no problem with the original devil race. The original devil race was formally accepted. However, they currently couldn't stay for a long period because the skyscraping world's aura had yet to fully permeate the Martial Heaven continent. This bit of rejection from the laws of the continent wasn't favorable to the original devil race's cultivation. However, once the skyscraping world's aura was fully integrated with the Martial Heaven continent, the original devil race would be able to unleash their full potential on the battlefield. Everyone slowly scattered. In the end, only a few selected members were invited by Longchen to the skyscraping world. After that, Yu Shihan personally welcomed the High Priest, Taoist Heavenly Feather, the Music Master, Chu Jianying the Old Man, Li Tianxian, and the others. Yu Shihan was sincerely grateful to the High Priest for his suggestion. If it hadn't been for him, Longchen wouldn't have dared to allow the original devil race to return to the Martial Heaven continent. Hence, Yu Shihan bowed deeply to the High Priest. The High Priest shook his head and stopped her. The original devil race is a noble immortal race. We are not qualified to receive your bow. Long Chen's heart shook. The high priest knew even more than he had expected. He actually knew the original devil race's true origins. Long Chen then stealthily looked around. Taoist Heavenly Feather and the music master were calm, but Chu Jianying and the others were clearly hearing this for the first time. Long Chen, that's about enough. We old fellows should leave so you can handle the rest. The high priest and the others had only come to the skyscraping world as a formality, something for the others to see. This action would make those still harboring suspicions toward the original devil race finally give up. After the high priest and the others left, Long Chen had Xia Chen construct a new formation diagram here. It was a transportation formation that specialized in defense and prevented experts of the martial heaven continent from entering the skyscraping world. Even for Long Chen and the others, they would need a special token and signal to enter. However, anyone with the specific spiritual fluctuations of the original devil race could pass through. It was only outsiders that couldn't. Once that was arranged, everyone got to work. At this moment, Long Chen asked Evil Moon, "Is that dragon woman's divine ability very powerful?" Evil Moon had mentioned that if she used the divine ability, perhaps she could defeat Long Chen but not kill him. Long Chen didn't like that. "It's very powerful. Even if you were at full power and in the heaven's wrath state, it's difficult to say who would win," said Evil Moon. "It's that amazing? Did you think that she is called the Emperor of the Black Dragon race for nothing? The barbarian blood black dragon's divine abilities can summon the power of their ancestors, multiplying the power of their bloodline by 10 times. 10 times? Are you serious?" Long Chen jumped. What kind of divine ability was so exaggerated? Of course, the evil dragon race possesses an innate devouring ability that is just as powerful. When I fought Yun Shang, I had yet to unleash my full power, nor did I have my 10,000 dragon nest. That's the only reason he managed to suppress me in one move. Otherwise, would I have ended up in my current situation? Well, a defeat is a defeat. Finding excuses is the act of a weakling. I say this to you so you understand that the strongest aspect of the barbarian blood black dragon race is pure power. However, she has yet to reach the 13th rank, so using that kind of divine ability is extremely dangerous to her. Even if her bloodline is pure, she would have to endure an immense backlash. That's why I scared her off. With the two of us working together, there's a chance we could kill her, but the price is too great to be worth it. You just have to be careful around her when she advances to the 13th rank where she won't be afraid of the backlash. At that time, you will come to understand the true strength of the dragon race. Fuck, I thought that the sea demon race would collapse after I killed that fellow. But then this dragon woman appeared out of nowhere. Long Chen was extremely vexed. Powerful enemies kept coming out one after another, giving him a headache. I tell you not to reveal your trump cards not because of them. It's because of those old demons hiding in the depths. You can sweep through your generation, but you don't know how many living fossils still exist behind their powers. If your display is too strong, would you be able to stop someone on the level of Taoist Heavenly Feather or even the high priest who decided to throw away all their faces and kill you? Said Evil Moon. Long Chen shook his head. If someone on the level of Taoist Heavenly Feather wanted to kill him, they wouldn't need a second attack. No stratagems could work in front of absolute power. Your weakness is all too clear. They can threaten anyone beside you to force you to come out, so it would be best if you were a bit more low-key. Time is your best friend here. Once you advance to heaven merging, you will possess the power to protect yourself even against them, said Evil Moon. Long Chen nodded. Evil Moon was correct. He was truly in an extremely dangerous state. If an expert on the old monster class wanted to kill him, he wouldn't survive unless he decided to hide beside the high priest the entire time. However, what if someone targeted his allies? Would he be able to endure then? It didn't matter if it was the original devil race, the Martial Heaven Alliance, the Xiantian Dao sect, the Heaven-Splitting Battle sect, or the Xian Beasts. If any of them were attacked, Long Chen wouldn't be able to ignore them. The more he thought about it, the more vexed he grew. Putting it as simple as possible, he wasn't strong enough. Otherwise, who would dare to threaten him? Currently, he had 3 divine bones. They were of the earth, water, and wind elements. The water attribute divine bone had been discussed with Meng Qi and the others. They had chosen to send it to Nangong Zuyu due to a lack of other powerful water cultivators. The earth element divine bone was shared between Li Qi and Song Mingyuan. Since they were sharing one, whether or not either of them could produce a spirit bone would be up to their luck. The wind element divine bone was naturally given to Tangwan. However, it was only possible to merge with the divine bone after entering the heaven merging realm. Because of it, Tangwaner had long since grown antsy. Evil Moon was correct. Advancing to the heaven merging realm was important to him, as well as the Dragon Blood warriors. Their power would instantly soar at that point. After thinking through this and arranging things for the original devil race, Long Chun announced his own seclusion, leaving everything else to Guoran. He then became a professional pill eater once more, raising his cultivation base to the full circle of the Netherpassage realm, only coming out when he was ready to advance to heaven merging at any moment. When he was out, a month had passed. At this point, he checked the primal chaos space and smiled. The heavenly Qilin demon trees had been nourished by the corpses of the demonic beasts and grown twice as tall. Also, their life energy was several times greater than before, which gave him a bit more confidence for his next tribulation. "Boss, you came out? Something major has happened." Guoran immediately came running over when Long Chen came out of seclusion. "What is it?" asked Long Chen. Had the other worlds started invading the Martial Heaven continent? Just yesterday, a batch of experts gathered inside of Devil Spirit Mountain and charged out, fighting with the defenders left behind by the Divine Families and the Martial Heaven continent, reported Guoran. Devil Spirit Mountain had launched a sudden attack, catching the Divine Families and the Martial Heaven continent's army off guard. Because of it, the latter had taken heavy losses. Fortunately, the reinforcements from the original devil race had come quickly. Using their devil-suppressing divine seals, they had been able to strike back. The battle ended up exceptionally intense, with Yi Liangchen and Jiang Wuchen joining in as well. However, both these sovereign sprouts of the divine families were beaten by a certain terrifying life form within Devil Spirit Mountain. Moreover, Jian Wuchen had his leg severed and almost died. "Who is that strong?" asked Long Chen. He called himself the All-Devil Heaven Walker. The original devil race was unable to suppress him, and he killed hundreds of them, said Guoran. Long Chen's expression changed. Although there was no way to prevent people from dying in battle, he was still unable to accept casualties amongst the original devil race. Guoran continued. The Dragon Blood Legion quickly arrived afterward. Luckily, Xiaoqian's devil-suppressing seal was able to have some effect on him, and only then did he retreat into Devil Spirit Mountain. But he demanded that the Martial Heaven continent hand over 3 people, or they would return at any moment. At that moment, Guoran's expression grew a bit odd. "Which 3 people?" asked Long Chen, confused. He showed an image. The image depicted you, Chang Hao, and Bao Buping. Long Chen was still confused, but then comprehension struck him. Could it be him? "Do you have a picture of him?" asked Long Chen hastily. Photographic jades cannot record battles on such a terrifying level. But I saw him and he was extremely strange. Guoran waved his hand, summoning an image of a humanoid. His face was blurry as this was just something that Guoran was recalling from his memory, but Long Chen did feel that he was a bit familiar. "It's him." Long Chen thought of when he, Chang Hao, and Bao Buping had snuck into Devil Spirit Mountain. They had found countless experts chained within an abyss. The chains were connected at the bottom to a giant coffin, and inside the coffin was a divine fetus, which had given off a terrifying pressure that had scared them off. However, at the last minute, Long Chen had seen his pillow, which was the heaven-flipping seal. In the end, Long Chen had taken the risk of stealing it, and Bao Buping had used a chamber pot to replace the heaven-flipping seal. As there was no news from Chang Hao and Bao Buping, they were probably still in seclusion, training in the 9th form of Split the Heavens. Otherwise, the 2 of them would have definitely recognized him. That fellow had definitely awakened and realized that he had been sleeping on a chamber pot. The smell definitely wasn't good. That was why he had suddenly charged out before the laws of Devil Spirit Mountain mixed with the Martial Heaven continent. It was most likely his individual act and not part of the larger strategy. What about the other powers? Did they participate? Asked Long Chen. Yun Tian hasn't shown himself since the Star Field Divine World. Pill Valley's people appeared but not the Pill Fairy, and there's been no news from the corrupt path at all. It seems that they know that they are viewed as enemies now and do not dare to show themselves. As for the seniors, either the battle came too suddenly for them to react, or they felt that it was a matter for the junior generation. They didn't appear, reported Guoran. What about Mo Nian then? It isn't his style not to show up at something so flashy, said Long Chen. Exactly. It was such a good chance to show off, but he didn't come. Guoran also couldn't explain it. He's definitely up to something. He wants to shock everyone when the time comes. Speaking of which, ever since advancing to the Netherpassage realm, he has never used his core energy again. It seems that his energy is undergoing some kind of rebirth. All the power that he used in the previous battles was from a nether god's mortal husk, said Long Chen. In the Star Field Divine World, Mo Nian had grumbled to Long Chen about how difficult it was to use a nether god's power. Furthermore, his own power was undergoing a transformation, so he was quite sullen. With so many activities occurring on the Martial Heaven continent, he was definitely in a critical state if he hadn't appeared. Boss, what should we do? Probed Guoran. Gather our brothers. We'll make them pay blood for blood, said Long Chen without hesitation. Good. I knew that there would be something good once boss was out of seclusion. Guoran cried out excitedly and ran off. Although Devil Spirit Mountain was jointly guarded by the Divine Families and the Martial Heaven continent, most of the Martial Heaven continent's forces were concentrated on the Yin-Yang world and the corrupt god cemetery. Devil Spirit Mountain could be considered the Divine Family's main battleground, so the Divine Families had led that battle. If it weren't for the All-Devil Heaven Walker appearing, the Dragon Blood Warriors wouldn't have joined in. Even if they would have, it would only be in a passively defensive position. Long Chen had told them to be wary of the Divine Families and not foolishly charge forward to be taken advantage of. In that battle, Yi Liangchen and Jian Wuchen had both been defeated, driving them crazy. But the Dragonblood Legion was even more incensed. Long Chen had left it up to them to protect the original devil race, but hundreds of them had been killed by the All-Devil Heavenwalker. For a battle on such a level, Guoran couldn't rashly make the decision on his own, so he had waited for Long Chen to come out of seclusion. At this moment, the Dragonblood Legion was quickly gathered, and Long Chen faced them. That All-Devil Heavenwalker is too arrogant. He crushed the Divine Families and brought us casualties. We will repay him tooth for tooth, eye for eye. If he sneak attacked us, then we can sneak attack him. This isn't letting emotions control us but strategy. In a battle between two worlds, morale can sometimes be even more important than power. To win this war, the Martial Heaven continent's side must maintain an elevated level of morale that will give its warriors the determination to face death fearlessly and unleash their greatest power. When it comes to the battle for morale, the continent's #1 legion is the only one qualified to participate. That is because we are not willing to leave our responsibilities to others. As for the Sovereign Sprout's guards, in my eyes, they're not even worth as much as dogs hit. They strut around normally, but when the real battle starts, they cower like dogs. The Dragonblood warriors nodded. Yi Liangchen and Jian Wuchen's guards had been terrified by the All-Devil Heavenwalker. When it came to a real battle, they really weren't anything special. They were the Divine Family's strongest group with the highest cultivation bases, greatest talent, and best equipment. Only their actual combat power was trash. They were a far cry from the Dragonblood warriors. When it came to killing enemies on the battlefield, they weren't even on the same level. However, you have to be mentally prepared. I will not be participating in this battle, said Long Chen. What? Boss, don't joke around. If you don't come, who will block the All-Devil Heavenwalker? Asked Guoran. Long Chen waved his hand. Let me finish. You will only launch a sneak attack, not a large-scale battle. The goal is only to raise morale and then leave. As this strike shall be quick and sweet, the All-Devil Heavenwalker won't necessarily arrive in time. If he does, I will personally handle him. If he's in such a rush, then by working together, we have a high chance of preventing him from leaving alive. That's right. Our goal is the All-Devil Heaven Walker. We can kill him to raise everyone's morale," exclaimed Li Qi. Long Chen shook his head. "With my bad luck, I don't think he will fall into my hands so easily. I can come up with plenty of great plans, but in reality, they are just dreams. So, if he comes, we will join forces to kill him. If he's not, Mingyu and I will sneak into Devil Spirit Mountain, while the rest of you draw the attention of the devil race." Dong Mingyu smiled excitedly upon hearing that she would go out on a special mission with Long Chen. "Are you investigating the power of the devil race? Isn't that too dangerous?" asked Mengqi. Considering how many experts were gathering in Devil Spirit Mountain, it would be troublesome if he was noticed. "There definitely is danger, but it must be taken. The heaven-splitting divine tablet has yet to return, so there must be something up," said Long Chen. Last time, Long Chen, Chang Hao, and Bao Buping had released the heaven-splitting divine tablet. After that, the tablet had told them that it would return on its own later. However, it had been many years, and there was still no news from it. The heaven-splitting divine tablet was the heaven-splitting battle sect's strongest divine item, so only once it returned could the sect return to its former glory. Long Chen had witnessed the old man sighing about this alone many times. Thus, Long Chen had two plans. If the All-Devil Heaven Walker came, they would kill him. If he didn't, he would find the heaven-splitting divine tablet. Cloud then summoned her true body, and they shot off into the void. Space twisted around them. Cloud's speed was comparable to a transportation formation, so in just a few breaths' time, they arrived in front of Devil Spirit Mountain. This place was still in ruins, the aftermath of the battle yesterday. Hence, countless experts of the divine families were still cleaning up. Long Chen saw Feng Fei conducting things and also Yi Lingshan's figure. However, he didn't greet her. Instead, he had Cloud directly fly into Devil Spirit Mountain. It's the Cloud chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. It's the Dragon Blood Legion. What are they doing? Startled cries rang out. After that, Cloud slowed down in front of Devil Spirit Mountain, allowing everyone to see her and the Dragon Blood warriors on her back. The Dragon Blood Legion's strongest members have all gathered. But Long Chen's aura isn't amongst them. What are they doing? Feng Fei stared as well, puzzled. Long Chen was wearing a special aura-concealing cloak with Xia Chen's runes on it, and it also made him invisible. Hence, even someone as powerful as Feng Fei didn't notice him amongst the crowd. Cloud then charged straight through. The Devil Spirit Mountain spatial laws had yet to fully merge with the martial heaven continents, so Cloud tore straight through the void, causing huge waves in space. On the other side, the countless experts of the devil race were staring coldly at the movement of the continent's experts when Cloud suddenly charged in. They didn't even have a chance to react before being directly blasted apart. Brothers kiss. Vengeance for the brothers and sisters of the original devil race. We will use their blood and souls as an offering to the original devil race's heroes. Guoran cried out and began shooting, unleashing arrows that exploded amongst the devil race's army. Every arrow created a zone devoid of any trace of life. Earth Disc Crush. At the same time, Li Qi and Song Mingyuan slammed the ground with a hand, and a giant crack split open. After that, an enormous stone rolled out through the battlefield, grinding down the devil race's experts. It was like a rolling pin was being used to flatten ants. The screams were hair-raising. Feng Fei and Yi Lingshan were both startled. Feng Fei demanded, "What are they doing? Why are they suddenly attacking without informing us?" Yi Lingshan shook her head. "I don't know either. These fellows are always like this. However, it is a bit odd that they would unleash such a large assault without Long Chen." The other warriors guarding this place were also stunned, not knowing if they were supposed to charge forward as well or continue watching. Why was nothing being said? "Guoran, what are you doing?" called Yi Lingshan. "Sister Lingshan, it's nothing to worry about. Just watch. Today, the weather's not bad. We're going to kill a few brats from the devil race as a celebration," replied Guoran from a distance. Yi Lingshan was speechless. The weather was the same as always. Black clouds covered the sky, and it was impossible to tell if it was day or night. He couldn't even bother to come up with a better excuse. Hence, Yi Lingshan only shrugged to Feng Fei. She had already asked. If Feng Fei had any further questions, she could ask them herself. As the leader of the Martial Heaven Continent's #1 alliance, are you unable to control your subordinates? Said Feng Fei coldly, her voice containing discontent as well as disdain. If it was before their trip to the star-field divine world, Yi Lingshan's expression would darken from hearing something like this. But now, only a few things could anger her. The way that she had been used by Dongfang Yuyang in the star-field divine world to blackmail Long Chen was her life's greatest shame. However, life was sometimes like that. Whether a person matured or not didn't depend on age, it depended on experience. After that experience and Long Chen's words, she had felt her realm sharply rise. At the very least, she could still smile in the face of Feng Fei's sneer. According to your own words, why is it that divine families who claim themselves to be the strongest within the Martial Heaven Continent still had 2 sovereign sprouts defeated? One even had his leg cut off. Is this how the divine families raise sovereign sprouts? You. Feng Fei's expression sank. Senior Feng Fei, why are you so serious? Did I say something wrong? I'm just asking you a question just like you asked me one. I didn't get angry, so why would you? Yi Lingshan cocked her head at Feng Fei. Yi Lingshan smiled faintly. In the past, she would definitely feel inferior in front of someone like Feng Fei. After all, Feng Fei's cultivation base, position, and status were all so high. However, ever since she had gotten to know Long Chen, she had found an extremely beautiful quality within him. That was shamelessness. Just like this, Long Chen could spout the most nonsensical words out with a serious expression. He wouldn't feel the slightest shame over that. As she got closer to Long Chen and understood his experience, she realized that shamelessness was a display of confidence. Only after going through those experiences could someone face life calmly. Hence, she was no longer feeling inferior or cowardly. As she wasn't comparing herself with others anymore, she wouldn't envy them. She knew that every person was their own unique individual, and no one was inferior to anyone. At the end of the day, a heart lacking jealousy wouldn't fawn on others, and a heart lacking darkness could advance in the face of death. The current Yi Lingshan had truly grown steady and calm. What had happened in the star-field divine world had greatly stimulated her. Now when she looked at Feng Fei, Yi Lingshan felt like she was looking at her old immature self. The difference in realms was too immense. A sharp tongue. Is that what you learned from Long Chen? Snorted Feng Fei, not having any way to retort. I didn't learn much from Long Chen, but at the very least I learned not to suck up to others or bend myself backward for others. Respect must be mutual. You represent the divine families, but I represent the Martial Heaven Continent. Although I'm not as strong as you, our positions are equal. So, Senior Feng Fei, when you speak, it would be best to dampen that temper of yours. That way, we will be able to communicate more peacefully, said Yi Lingshan indifferently. Yi Lingshan was refreshed inside as Feng Fei had constantly been speaking down toward her. Yi Lingshan had been ignoring her the entire time, but every person had a point where they were pushed too far to endure any longer. Long Chen had once told her not to bother with what was wrong with other people's heads when they spoke like this to her. If she didn't want to slap them, she could use words to crush them. If you simply gave in to their arrogance, they would only look down on you. Slap them once and they'd be much more obedient. As expected, Feng Fei no longer spoke. After all, she represented the divine families, so she couldn't be rash. Seeing that, Yi Lingshan turned away. When facing the Martial Heaven Continent's experts, she announced, "Enter combat state. Be ready to assist the Dragonblood Legion at any moment." Yes. The Martial Heaven Continent's experts replied in unison, their voices like thunder. They had all heard Yi Lingshan's words just now and were incredibly refreshed from that. This entire time, while they were jointly guarding this place with the Divine Families, the Divine Families' disciples were constantly looking down on them. Therefore, this verbal retaliation from Yi Lingshan was incredibly satisfying to them. Within Devil Spirit Mountain, The Dragonblood Legion was like tigers crushing the Devil Race's army. The Devil Race's millions of experts were crushed rapidly. The Martial Heaven Continent's experts felt their blood heating up as they watched. The Dragonblood Legion was incredibly powerful, and the Devil Race's experts were unable to stop them. Quite a few people here had participated in the battle yesterday and had personally experienced the terror of these devil experts. Even though their power was suppressed ever so slightly on the Martial Heaven Continent, they were still frighteningly powerful. Even Yi Liangqin and Jiang Wuchen's elite guards found it taxing to fight against them. In the end, quite a few casualties had appeared amongst the elite guards. However, now the Dragonblood Legion had charged into Devil Spirit Mountain and slaughtered those powerful enemies. That bloody scene was so inspiring that some people had an urge to charge in as well. The Dragonblood Legion had just over 10,000 people, but they were forcing an army of millions to retreat. The void exploded, revealing channels from which more experts of the Devil Race came pouring out. These new experts were clearly elites, as quite a few of them were within the 13th rank. At this moment, evil chi filled the air. Captain class experts, pick out those old 13th rank monsters. Everyone else, maintain the heaven-trapping killing formation, shouted Guoran. He also picked out one of those 13th rank experts for himself. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wen, Yu Zhiqiu, Gu Yang, Yu Zifeng, and the others charged out at those old monsters. When more experts arrived, Lu Ruyan summoned her true body, and her branches streaked through the air, tearing through her enemies. After that, their essence blood was quickly absorbed, and they turned into desiccated corpses in an instant. As someone from the undying race, Lu Ruyan possessed a fierce blood, meaning that she was innately bloodthirsty. Their essence blood was not just making up for her own energy, but also making her stronger. The Dragonblood Legion didn't go all out yesterday, or that all Devil Heaven Walker wouldn't dare to be so arrogant. What is the Dragonblood Legion planning? Feng Fei's expression grew cold. When she saw the Dragonblood Legion's terrifying power, she recalled how they had been here yesterday. If they had been fighting like this last time, Yi Liangqin and Jiang Wuchen wouldn't have been defeated so miserably. At the very least, Jiang Wuchen wouldn't have had his leg cut off. "Why are you not answering?" demanded Feng Fei when Yi Lingshan didn't respond. "You were asking me?" Yi Lingshan looked at her, not understanding. "What does the Dragonblood Legion fighting have to do with me? If you have to ask someone, go ask Long Chen." "You!" Feng Fei ground her teeth furiously. "Since everyone is working together, we should be united, not watching as others get attacked." "Those words of yours are a bit hurtful. Did you not see how many warriors the Martial Heaven Continent sacrificed in the battle yesterday? If it wasn't for the original Devil Race coming, the casualties would have been even greater. That group of experts stood up to the All-Devil Heaven Walker and were slaughtered because of it. If it wasn't for Yi Liangqin and Jiang Wuchen's carelessness, how could those warriors have ended up killed by him? If they weren't killed and their devil-suppressing divine seals stayed in effect, would we have suffered so many casualties? It was the result of their deaths that caused the Devil Race to no longer be suppressed, allowing the All-Devil Heaven Walker to cut off Jiang Wuchen's leg. If Yu Shaoqian hadn't come at that time, your big brother would already be dead. All of this can only be blamed on your side's lack of ability. Why are you trying to blame others now? Is this the greatest ability of the divine families? Yi Lingshan's expression grew cold as well. She was no longer as courteous as before. Feng Fei's face alternated colors as her teeth creaked. However, she was unable to find an opening to retort. Suddenly, space exploded within Devil Spirit Mountain, and more 13th rank experts appeared. One giant hand even descended from the sky, causing the void to splinter. "That's a mid-stage heaven merging expert." Feng Fei's expression suddenly changed. "Dragonblood Legion, you must retreat. That's a mid-heaven merging expert." Feng Fei shouted at them as she recognized that terrifying aura. Although they might not be afraid of early heaven merging experts, upon reaching the 4th step of heaven merging, the power levels were completely different. However, Lu Ruyan was already attacking. Her branches condensed into a giant whip that struck the hand. Boom! The whip exploded, but the hand also crumbled, transforming into a black rune. At this moment, devil chi erupted, and within the black mist, a large figure slowly condensed. It was an ape-shaped devil. Its body was just as large as Lu Rian's giant willow and was covered in scales. With a mouth like a fish and eyes like two golden lanterns shining within the black mist, it was like a hellish fiend that had emerged to the world. What Lu Rian had destroyed was one of its divine abilities. She hadn't actually damaged its true body. After that, it suddenly let out a heaven-shaking roar, which was like that of a fierce tiger. The world quivered as an invisible pressure enveloped everyone. Hidden within the darkness, Long Chen nodded upon hearing Feng Fei's shout. Although she was very dislikable, it seemed that she could at least keep her head clear in the face of the big picture. If it was Yi Liangchen or Jiang Wuchen instead, there was no way they would give a warning. They wanted the Dragonblood Legion to be destroyed. Everyone, work together. Long Chen sent a spiritual message to the Dragonblood warriors. The Dragonblood warriors had formed a defensive formation and were preparing to retreat, but upon hearing Long Chen's transmission, they changed into the crane wing formation. All their blood chi soared. The devil ape was already attacking. One of its legs stamped toward the Dragonblood warriors, and space completely collapsed around its foot. A figure then flashed through the air, bringing forth the clear sound of a sword coming out of its sheath. In the next instant, a cold light flew out. Yu Zifeng cut a giant opening in its foot. Despite that, its foot was too thick, so Yu Zifeng's sword was unable to sever it. But he had achieved his goal. Its tendons had been severed. The devil ape then stumbled, wanting to stabilize. However, its other foot had at one point been silently bound by wooden stakes. As it lost balance and began to fall forward, Guoran was waiting. Dragonblood cross slash. A giant cross slashed toward the ape's neck. However, as soon as Guoran unleashed this attack, he almost slapped himself. Just as he attacked, the ape had its hand falling toward the ground due to losing its balance. As a result, Guoran's attack landed on its arm. Boom. This was an attack containing the majority of power from every Dragonblood warrior. Hence, the hand was blown apart. After that, the attack continued through its arm, striking it on the neck. Black blood splattered everywhere as a giant cross cut was left in its neck. However, due to going through its arm, it was not a fatal injury. Guoran was incredibly regretful at having this killing blow fail. It seemed that they would be forced to retreat. Suddenly, white light illuminated the world, and a streak of light struck the ape's head. However, it was just an ordinary streak of light. It didn't seem to cause any harm. Everyone looked over to see Meng Qi floating in the air, holding a mirror. The light was coming from it. That was the mirror that Long Chen had taken from the ghost ship, the Void Mirror, and this was Meng Qi's first time using it in public. As a result, the ape's body trembled. Its eyes grew dull. Seeing this scene, Long Chen smiled and put away Evil Moon. Meng Qi had finally figured out how to use the Void Mirror. Hence, the ape was most likely lost in some kind of illusionscape and unable to extricate itself. Retreat. A mid-heaven merging expert is too hard to deal with. I don't want to expose myself, Long Chen transmitted to everyone. Just as everyone was about to pull back, startled cries rang out from the Dragonblood warriors. They saw a giant wild charging forward and striking the ape's neck. That was precisely where Guoran's attack had struck. At this moment, the wound grew bigger, and it even became possible to see bone. "Wild, what are you doing?" shouted Guoran. As expected, after that blow, the ape instantly woke up and a berserk aura exploded, unleashing a wave of astral winds that forced back the Dragonblood warriors. It was like knives running across their faces. Now that the devil ape was enraged, its power made even Long Chen jump in shock. He once more took out Evil Moon. If something unexpected happened, he would have to interfere, even if it meant exposing himself. However, the devil ape suddenly shrieked. It clasped its neck that was bitten down by Wild. Wild's giant body was already shocking enough, but in comparison to the devil ape, he was the size of a single finger. Right now, Wild had crawled into its wound and was biting on its bone. As a result, the devil ape howled and began to roll on the ground. Cracks spread. Its body suddenly shrank, forcing Wild out. However, it then began to twitch as it lost control over its body. Wild had managed to crush its neck bones in just a few bites due to shrinking down. Hence, it could no longer control its body. Just at that moment, Guarant's arrows flew over, striking its eyes and piercing its head. After that, blood began to ooze out of its eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. This terrifying devil ape was finally killed. Ha, we did it. Let's retreat. Guaran laughed and gave the order to retreat. After that, Lu Rian's branches stretched out, grabbing the devil ape's corpse. Right now, Feng Fei stared in amazement. Although she had personally seen this scene, she still found it difficult to believe. Wild, put away the corpse. You can eat it later. Tang Wan'er couldn't help speaking out. The sight and sound of the giant corpse being eaten was extremely off-putting. Although Wild was a pure-hearted child who ate to cultivate, watching him tear into that corpse in such a bloody fashion was something they couldn't get used to despite years of seeing it. After that, Wild mumbled something through a mouthful and came out of its body. However, his body was soaked in black blood, and the only part of him that was still white was his eyes. Seeing him like this, the Divine Family's disciples recoiled in fear. Being stared at by Wild was like being stared at by a monster. They felt like they would be eaten as well. As for the Devil Spirit Mountain's side, it was in chaos. The death of the ape caused furious roars, but they didn't dare to charge out. It seemed like their top experts had left, either scared off or going to report the news. Return our king. The devil experts inside Devil Spirit Mountain roared at Long Chen and the others. They were those who had come with the devil ape. However, they weren't apes. Some of them had wings, some had horns, some had 2 heads and 4 arms, and even more. Their king? What does that mean? Asked Guaran. The devil race is enormous and has many subraces within. Moreover, those subraces have branches, and those branches are split into many tribes. As far as I know, a tribe is the smallest subdivision and can be considered to be the equivalent of a sect on the Martial Heaven continent. It seems like this devil ape could be considered their sect leader, said Feng Fei. The current Feng Fei was no longer as arrogant as before. The Dragon Blood Legion had actually killed a mid-heaven merging expert, and that was an astonishing achievement. Before this, she had always thought that without Long Chen, the Dragon Blood Legion was nothing more than ants. However, now that she had witnessed their true power, she couldn't compare it to when they had been in the star-field divine world. Guaran cupped his fists. Many thanks for Lady Feng Fei's explanation. Also, many thanks for your warning. I'm not too good with words, so I hope you won't take offense from this. But if the rest of the divine families could be like you, I feel like our collaboration will go a bit smoother. Feng Fei's arrogance might be annoying, but that warning she had given showed that she cared about the big picture before her personal grievances. Just that bit of act proved that she wasn't a spoiled, rotten child. Regretfully, it seemed that her position was the lowest amongst the 4 sovereign sprouts. Yi Liangchen and Jiang Wuchen were truly detestable in comparison. As for Long Outyin, although he hadn't expressed any hostile intention toward the Dragon Blood Legion, his icy arrogance made them feel uncomfortable. Being unable to see through him, they felt somewhat uneasy. Although Feng Fei was a bit foolish and somewhat princess-like, in comparison she was easier to get along with. That was why Guaran said those words just now. Feng Fei indifferently said, "Is that supposed to be praise? It can't count as one. I am simply stating facts. After all, we are joining forces against our enemies, the invaders from other worlds. So we should be united against them, don't you think?" Guaran smiled. Feng Fei remained silent, but Guaran didn't mind. Feng Fei couldn't be the ruler of the divine families, nor was she able to control the other sovereign sprouts. Why did you suddenly launch an attack without saying anything? At this moment, Yi Lingshan finally demanded an explanation. "Senior Apprentice Sister Lingshan, this is due to boss's edicts," said Guaran hastily. Edicts? Yi Lingshan was speechless. Why hadn't he said orders instead of some nonsense like edicts? Had Long Chen claimed himself to be a god or emperor at some point? Guaran was always exaggerating things. Then why didn't Long Chen come? Asked Yi Lingshan. Due to the loss that we suffered yesterday, we went to talk to Boss. Boss was still in seclusion and unable to come out, but when we explained what happened, he cursed us for holding grudges. The Dragonblood Legion never holds grudges. Who has the time to hold grudges? So, he told us to hurry up and repay them an eye for an eye. If the All-Devil Heavenwalker came out, then he'd leave his seclusion and slaughter him. Otherwise, we could take matters into our own hands. See, this is the teleportation talisman we prepared. If I crush it, Boss will immediately come. But we didn't get a chance to use it, said Guoran. Meng Qi and the others concealed smiles. Guoran was truly more suited to acting. His eyes, his expression, and his movements were all natural. Even they almost believed it. Hearing this, Feng Fei and Yi Lingshan nodded. No wonder the Dragonblood Legion dared to attack Devil Spirit Mountain. So they could summon Long Chen at any time. How curious! Why is that All-Devil Heavenwalker now cowering like a tortoise? I wanted Boss to kill him. Guoran frowned. He truly was unwilling. If the All-Devil Heavenwalker had come, then with the Dragonblood Legion's full power, Long Chen would have a high chance of killing him. The All-Devil Heavenwalker had defeated Yi Liangchen and Jiang Wuchen. If Long Chen then killed him, that would be incredibly good news for the Martial Heaven continent. Their morale would reach unprecedented heights. What about the experts of the original devil race? Why didn't they come? Asked Feng Fei. Not even Yu Shaoqian had come. If she was here, they would have had it even easier. She didn't know that the reason Yu Shaoqian hadn't come was because Long Chen didn't want her aura rubbing off on him. Due to their close relationship, once Yu Shaoqian activated her devil-suppressing divine seal, it might cause a slight reaction in Long Chen's body. Considering how sensitive the devil race was to this aura, Long Chen might be easily exposed. Boss said that this was a chance for the Dragonblood Legion to show our power. This way, we told the devil race that even without the original devil race, they are nothing more than crops to be harvested, said Guoran. Just as Guoran was bragging, Long Chen and Dong Mingyu had covered themselves in the hide of a devil expert and followed their army back into the depths of Devil Spirit Mountain. Big brother Long Chen, transmitted Dong Mingyu. What is it? Asked Long Chen. I really want to laugh. You can't laugh, huh? Long Chen himself couldn't hold back after saying that. He and Dong Mingyu had transformed into two warriors of the devil race. Long Chen had a horn on his head and was barefoot. Moreover, his face was covered in bloodstains and there was a tail on his butt. This appearance of his made Dong Mingyu unable to hold back her laughter. On the other hand, Dong Mingyu had a pair of bat wings, and her two ears were long and thin. She was holding a bone trident in her hand. Having disguised themselves as experts of the blood race, they couldn't help laughing when they looked at each other. After a while, they got used to their new appearance. Dong Mingyu giggled, Big brother Long Chen, I feel happy when I'm with you. We have plenty of happy days before us. Once the dark era is past, our enemies will all be gone. After that, we can live freely, said Long Chen. Perhaps this was Dong Mingyu's first time doing such a thing, so she was especially excited. It was truly stimulating. After getting used to their bodies, they gathered with the devil race's army. After entering a branch, one of their experts pointed at them and shouted something in their language, causing Dong Mingyu to jump. She almost killed that fellow. Fortunately, Long Chen stamped that expert and sent him flying into the distance. This drew quite a bit of attention. That warrior had been cursing Long Chen and Dong Mingyu for being cowards, leaving their squad and only returning now. They had lost the face of the devil race. However, after sending him flying, Long Chen pointed at his own nose and spoke in their language. The last time he had entered Devil Spirit Mountain, Long Chen had done soul searches on some of their experts, so he knew their language. Hence, now he cursed that warrior, acting like a big wig. The outer form that Long Chen had taken was from a small squad leader with quite the temper. Long Chen had also done a soul search on him and knew his status and position. As expected, quite a few of these experts recognized him as soon as he drew some attention. They then raised their fists toward him, seemingly in praise. It could be considered a kind of thumbs up. The devil race had many tribes. The one that had cursed the two of them just now belonged to the same tribe as the heaven-merging expert that had been killed. Due to their leader being killed, their tribe was facing great chaos. That irritation was what caused him to immediately fly into a rage when he saw Long Chen and Dong Mingyu return. However, Long Chen didn't give him any sympathy. Using the devil race's words, Long Chen cursed back, "Shit-eating fellow, your leader's been killed. You're just as useless as your leader, yet you dare be so arrogant. Go home and eat more shit. This battle doesn't need useless fellows like you. I'll kill you." The devil expert tried to charge at Long Chen but was held back by the others in his group. Perhaps they knew that Long Chen wasn't a good target to provoke, or perhaps they felt that it wasn't a good idea to blow this up any bigger. Hence, they dragged that devil expert away. Long Chen put on an icy face and continued walking. Naturally, no one else provoked him, so he and Dong Mingyu walked silently. When they reached a transportation formation, Long Chen took out a medal. This transportation formation could only be activated by experts of the devil race with a certain status and position. The guard looked at Long Chen and then pointed at Dong Mingyu. Killing intent flashed in Long Chen's eyes. "Scram. My mood isn't good today, so if you don't want to die, get further back." According to the memories of this corpse, this transportation formation could only be used by small squad leaders and above. Others couldn't use it, but if they were with other bosses and chiefs, it would be different. There were different levels amongst the squad leaders, bosses, and chiefs. Long Chen's level needed to hand over a devil crystal as a price for the transportation, but in truth, this fee entered the pockets of those guarding the formations. Those guards let those with greater backgrounds through for free, of course. Hence, Long Chen's shout instantly scared them, and they allowed Long Chen to bring Dong Mingyu onto the transportation formation. So the devil race is the same as the human race. Even bullies are afraid of the strong, transmitted Dong Mingyu. Foolish girl. I've interacted with many races. Let me put it to you this way. Our human race is the most complicated. The human race's ways of doing things can be used anywhere. Long Chen smiled. After that, the transportation formation activated, and they appeared on an island, at a dock to be precise. This was where the transportation formation was constructed. There was water around them, but this water was black as ink and gave off a fishy smell. There were also dozens of other small transportation formations around them. At this moment, countless experts of the devil race were milling around, but Long Chen didn't know what they were busy with. In any case, no one bothered the two of them. Based on his corpse's memories, Long Chen advanced through this island that had countless caves on it. It was like a beehive. These were training caves. The higher he went, the greater the level of the cave. These were the residences of the devil race's experts. The body that he had taken over had a cave on the lowest level. In other words, this devil expert had just reached the qualifications of entering this place. However, he didn't go to his own cave. Instead, he went to a certain cave at the center of the island. Hold! Long Chen had only just arrived when two experts blocked his way. These two were from the same race as his body. "Please tell His Majesty Horned King that I have a report for him," said Long Chen. "His Majesty is cultivating in preparation for heaven merging. No one can disturb him," said the guard. He eyed Long Chen. Despite being from the same race, these two guards didn't seem to have a high opinion of him. "I bring important news from the front lines. If you report it, then if His Majesty Horned King wants to blame someone, he'll blame me. But if you refuse to report it and end up wasting precious time, His Majesty will definitely make your heads fall to the ground." "Don't blame me then," sneered Long Chen. He turned to leave. Those two guards' expressions changed. One of them finally said, "Slow down. Since we're from the same race, I'll send the message. As for whether or not His Majesty wishes to see you, it's your matter." The two guards were also afraid of this responsibility. If they ended up causing an important report to be stalled, the price could be their lives, so they would rather report it. After that, one of the guards pushed a red button at the entrance. That button represented that something important needed to be reported. After a while, no response came. The guard said, "We've passed the message, but His Majesty doesn't wish to see you. You can scram. Long Chen sighed inside. Why was his luck always so bad? However, just as he began to walk away, the stone gate creaked open. Let him through. Long Chen and Dong Mingyu entered. However, those guards suddenly extended a hand to block Dong Mingyu. Long Chen coldly said, "Scram. What I have to report is related to her. Without her, what am I supposed to report? Get in." Before the guard could reply, an angry voice came from within. Apparently, the one inside was not very patient. The guards were scared off and allowed both of them to enter. The inside of the cave was filled with a sinister aura. Devil chi swirled inside. It was similar to spiritual chi, so it was the foundation for the devil race's cultivators. There was a devil chi gathering formation here just like the spirit gathering formations of the martial heaven continent. As for this horned king, he was the son of a very large tribe in the devil race. His position was extremely high. As he could be considered the ruler of a nation, he was called His Majesty Horned King. His cave was extremely high level. Even if he hadn't made the necessary contributions to qualify for it, he had special treatment. As for the expert that Long Chen was disguised in, he was originally a meaningless member of the people in the Horned King's kingdom. However, due to his skill in fawning and his vision, as well as being somewhat useful, he was viewed at least somewhat importantly by the Horned King. However, while the Horned King thought of him highly, the others beside him looked down on him greatly, feeling like his power was lacking. He relied entirely on fawning, so they looked down on him. The cave was very wide. There was a black pool with devil chi rising out of it, and an expert was seated there. Even seated, he was 3 meters tall. He was a large and sturdy expert. Long Chen knew this Horned King's temper, so he didn't waste words. Reporting to His Majesty Horned King, your subordinate has 2 important pieces of news. One is good, and one is bad. The bad news is that our subordinate tribe leader, Ka-Er Hunashi, was surrounded and killed by a group of soul-awakening experts from the human race. His corpse was also taken. Based on the devil race's language, the human race's Netherpassage realm was the devil race's soul-awakening realm. Although they were called different things, the realm was the same. What? As expected, the Horned King shot up, shouting, "Who killed him?" Reporting to His Majesty, it was the Dragon Blood Legion of the Martial Heaven continent. That Long Chen didn't appear. It was done by his subordinates, said Long Chen. Impossible. Other than Lord Heavenwalker, who would have the ability to kill the mid-heaven merging Ka-Er Hunashi while in the soul-awakening realm, demanded the Horned King. Long Chen was startled. So the all-devil Heavenwalker was so powerful as to be able to kill a mid-heaven merging expert on his own? This was extremely shocking. The truth was that Ka-Er Hunashi was killed mostly thanks to luck. It was entirely because of Wild coincidentally biting him to death, so he clearly hadn't had a chance to unleash his full power. If he had, the Dragon Blood Legion wouldn't necessarily have been able to defeat him, and the price would have very likely included some sacrifices. This was also why Feng Fei was so shocked that they had accomplished this. However, based on the Horned King's tone, it seemed that the all-devil Heavenwalker possessed that level of power. Long Chen said, "Other than this bad news, there is some good news. My trusted subordinate snuck into the martial heaven continent and brought back a treasure." Long Chen suddenly turned to glare at Dong Mingyu. "What are you just staring for? Hurry and hand over the treasure to His Majesty. As long as His Majesty is happy, you definitely won't suffer a loss." Dong Mingyu trembled and took out a rolled-up ball of cloth from her chest. Unrolling it, she revealed a sharp dagger. Immediately, intense killing intent filled the entire cave. An inherited divine item. This really is something good. Just as the Horned King was staring in amazement at the Bloodkill Hall's inherited divine item, Dong Mingyu stabbed his solar plexus with it. The Horned King really was a fool. He had actually been reaching out to touch it when he saw how terrifying it was. This was a true killing tool that had killed countless powerful experts. His body instantly stiffened. The dagger's runes circulated, and his body became locked in runes. Long Chen then slammed a hand on the back of his head, causing him to faint. Hee, it was so easy, said Dong Mingyu. Giving him a big blow just as he was feeling shock and anger was too easy. His opening is too big. Long Chen smiled mischievously. This body that he had taken over had firmly supported the Horned King, so he was confident in succeeding. Mingyu, keep an eye on the outside. I'll take control. Long Chen took out a small sphere of light and placed it on the space between the Horned King's eyebrows. Runes lit up on top of the sphere. They were like stars slowly entering the Horned King's head. He simply lay there, not even twitching. Seeing this, Long Chen couldn't help sighing in amazement. Meng Qi's soul arts are something I'll never be able to imitate in this lifetime. This sphere was given to him by Meng Qi. She knew that Long Chen's spiritual strength was powerful, but he didn't know how to use it properly. When he did his soul searches, he used brute power. However, its odds of failure were very high, and even if he succeeded, he only managed to obtain some fragmentary memories that weren't very useful. However, Meng Qi's soul search technique was extremely marvelous. She drew her target into an illusion, and their inner secrets were brought out within that illusion. Their memories were then slowly excavated. Therefore, unless she encountered a powerful spiritual seal, all secrets would be exposed by her. Damn, so the devil world has this many experts. After an hour, Long Chen finished the soul search and was amazed. Based on the Horned King's memories, the devil race had brought millions and millions of tribes. The small tribes were led by a heaven-merging expert, while middling tribes had at least a mid-heaven merging expert. The one that Wild had bitten to death was from a middle-sized tribe. As for the Horned King's father, he was the head of a large tribe, a terrifying existence in the late heaven merging realm. Furthermore, his tribe had 3 late heaven merging experts and hundreds of mid-heaven merging experts. Moreover, Ka-Er Hunashi's middle-sized tribe was one of their direct subordinates, so his death infuriated the Horned King. According to his memories, there were hundreds of large tribes already gathered, along with hundreds of thousands of middle-sized tribes. This was truly a world-destroying army. Even Long Chen shivered at the thought of having to fight them. Just at this moment, the Horned King woke up. However, when he did, a mysterious rune was present in his pupils. That rune slowly faded. After he woke up, Long Chen slapped him in the face. The Horned King's expression didn't even twitch after being slapped by Long Chen. Long Chen nodded. Meng Qi's soul arts were truly amazing. The Horned King's soul was now under his control. Big Sister Meng Qi really is amazing, Dong Mingyu couldn't help praising. Most importantly, Meng Qi had never had a master to guide her. She had relied on her own power and comprehension, gathering ancient tomes and advancing step by step to her current height. There was no particularly powerful expert on the martial heaven continent skilled in soul arts that could teach her. Hence, she could be considered a true genius. Mingyu, you don't need that body any longer. Hide yourself in the void and just follow behind me, said Long Chen. Dong Mingyu nodded and returned to her normal appearance. Activating her concealing arts, she vanished. The Horned King suddenly smashed his hand onto Dong Mingyu's disguise, destroying it. What treasure? You dare to cheat me? Your Majesty, spare me. This truly is a treasure, cried out Long Chen. Shut up. If it weren't for the information that you brought back and that you still have some use, I'd have killed you as well, shouted the Horned King. In truth, Long Chen was just shouting like this for the 2 guards to hear. After that, the Horned King furiously charged out. The 2 guards were silent out of fear. You two clean up my cave, barked the Horned King. The 2 guards immediately ran in to gather the destroyed body. This way, there was no mistake with how 3 of them had turned into 2. Controlling the Horned King, they quickly descended the island. Originally, Long Chen had wanted to sneak his way into the core of the devil race, but upon learning how many powerful existences they had, he decided against it. From the Horned King's memories, Long Chen now knew that this black sea had the entrance to the devil world. The entrance was at the bottom of the sea. The devil world's aura was constantly entering from there, and this was what aided their cultivation. At the same time, This black sea emitted the devil world's laws, allowing those laws to enter the martial heaven continent. This Horned King's power was not equal to that of Long Outyen, Feng Fei, and the others. However, he was only a tiny bit weaker. He could be considered an expert on that level. However, even he was nothing more than one of the all-devil Heavenwalker's kings, similar to the Blood Fiend Devil Lord's 8 guards. They were all peak geniuses but suppressed by one person. The light from the Blood Fiend Devil Lord and the all-devil Heavenwalker was so great that even geniuses like them lost their splendor in front of the two of them. Even though they were subordinates, they still had high positions, so they knew some important secrets. Hence, Long Chen was bringing the Horned King to one of those secret spots. The transportation formation activated and Long Chen arrived at the peak of a mountain. Long Chen was familiar with this place. This was where he, Chang Hao, and Bao Buping had come to last time. There were many divine items chained here. At this moment, Long Chen arrived at the place where the heaven-splitting divine tablet had been, but it was already gone. Based on the aura, the chain was broken a long time ago. The heaven-splitting divine tablet escaped its bindings not long after we left back then. But why hasn't it returned? Long Chen looked at the chain, muttering to himself as he saw the dim runes and accumulated dust. Did the heaven-splitting divine tablet notice something and choose to stay behind? Wondered Dong Mingyu. Long Chen nodded. That sounds like the most likely possibility. The heaven-splitting divine tablet knows how much the heaven-splitting battle sect needs it, so it must have a reason for not returning. There were no signs of battle. It seemed that the heaven-splitting divine tablet really had escaped stealthily. That was one weight off of his shoulders. However, where had it gone? Now, Long Chen had no choice but to slip away, returning to the Devil Sea. Using the Horned King's status, he used the transportation formation and arrived at the bottom of the Devil Sea. He had the Horned King get rid of a few guards before he reached the depths. Although the Horned King's status was high, this region was forbidden to him, so even he wasn't permitted down. It seemed that the devil race had many secrets here. However, they only had a few guards warning people away because it had been tens of thousands of years since anyone had dared to enter this region. Long Chen and the Horned King descended deeper. At this moment, Long Chen started to regret it. The devil chi here was too strong, so Dong Mingyu was unable to stay concealed. Moreover, the disguise had been destroyed, and making a new one would take too long. Right now, darkness stretched around them. The water was condensed from pure devil chi, and it matched this place that was like a bottomless abyss. Everything was deathly silent as if they would keep sinking forever. Big brother Long Chen, are you going to sneak into the devil world? Asked Dong Mingyu. Yes, I want to take a look. It would be best if we could shut the opening. Although there's not much of a chance, I feel unwilling to leave without taking a look, replied Long Chen. Even the Horned King could not be sure that the entrance to the devil world was at the bottom of this devil sea because he had been born on Devil Spirit Mountain. It was just a legend. Long Chen knew nothing about the devil world, so he was very curious. Oh, there's a chain. Dong Mingyu suddenly pointed. They could vaguely see something within the darkness. Long Chen switched to the Horned King's vision. Only then was he vaguely able to see a chain-like entity. Mingyu, how can you see so far? Asked Long Chen. It wasn't my sight. I felt it. The chain has a strong murderous aura, explained Dong Mingyu. Long Chen moved closer, eventually seeing that it was a gigantic chain with runes twinkling on it. As he got closer, he also sensed the strong murderous aura. Suddenly, the bronze fragment in the primal chaos space shuddered, as if resonating. Long Chen, is it you? Just at this moment, a voice rang out in the depths of his soul, making Long Chen jump. That was the voice of the heaven-splitting divine tablet. Quick, come down. Thank goodness you're here. The heaven-splitting divine tablet's voice was emotional. Long Chen followed the chain down. Eventually, he saw a gigantic object that made his heart pound. This is... It was a giant axe covered in rust and bound by countless chains. It seemed to be in slumber, and yet it still exuded a murderous aura that gave Long Chen chills. It was a truly heaven-splitting axe. Just the head was miles long, and its handle had two curves that made it look like a dragon's body. Long Chen felt like a speck of dust in front of it. Long Chen's heart pounded. This giant axe had caused the fragment of the Eastern Wasteland bell to resonate, so the name of this axe was obvious. It was one of the 5 supreme divine items of the Martial Heaven continent, the Western Desert Axe. Long Chen, come over here. Long Chen was deeply stunned by the giant axe, but a voice came from below, drawing him out of his stupor. Long Chen swam down, and as expected, he saw the heaven-splitting divine tablet. Although its body was also large like a mountain, it was also tiny compared to the Western Desert Axe. Senior, I found you. But, is this the Western Desert Axe? Asked Long Chen. The heaven-splitting divine tablet said, correct, the supreme divine item, the Western Desert Axe. The reason I didn't directly leave after escaping my bindings is because I noticed it. I then snuck in, using my core energy to grind down one of its chains. As long as one of these chains is broken, the Western Desert Axe will be awoken from its slumber. Then it can leave as well. I've been bound in Devil Spirit Mountain for a long time, so I know just how terrifying their attack this time is. Hence, we must have the 5 supreme divine items to face this dark tribulation. Not even one can be missing. Senior, what can I do to help? Asked Long Chen. I sense the head's aura. Just at this moment, a voice rang out in Long Chen's mind. It was low and heavy but contained a power that would not diminish despite the long years. Senior Western Desert? The heaven-splitting divine tablet was delighted. It hadn't expected it to awaken at this time. The prophesied sun has finally arrived. Long Chen, use the head's power to break these chains. However, I've had all my power sucked away by them, so I won't be able to help you escape when the time comes, said the Western Desert Axe. Long Chen's heart pounded. Could this all have been arranged by the workings of fate? Only the Eastern Wasteland Bell's fragment could save the Western Desert Axe, while Long Chen had only ended up here due to searching for the heaven-splitting divine tablet. Was he really this so-called prophesied son? The game breaker? No problem. Once I release you, as long as you don't resist, I can bring you into my space, said Long Chen. Will that work? Senior Western Desert is? The heaven-splitting divine tablet was startled. This supreme divine item would shatter any astral space it was stored in. No problem. Even the senior Eastern Wasteland Bell was capable of entering, guaranteed Long Chen. After saying that, he turned to Dong Mingyu. Hold my waist. Dong Mingyu obediently held on. After that, Long Chen's primal space shook. He first brought the heaven-splitting divine tablet inside and took out the bronze fragment. He then cut it against one of the chains. As soon as the bronze fragment touched the chain exploded. At the same time, divine light exploded out of the fragment, and the other chains binding the Western Desert Axe also exploded. Senior, come in. The giant axe slowly entered the primal chaos space. It was so big and so heavy that moving it was extremely laborious. With the Western Desert Axe out of energy, it couldn't assist Long Chen in his efforts. Long Chen was relying entirely on his own power. Senior Divine Tablet, please help, cried out Long Chen. The depths of the sea rumbled and roiled. It was as if the entire Devil Sea was boiling. The alarm had most likely sounded, and the peak experts of the Devil race would quickly arrive. Boom. With the heaven-splitting Divine Tablet's help, the Western Desert Axe was finally dragged into the primal chaos space. Long Chen then slammed the Horned King's body, blasting it apart. The Horned King's body exploded, and his essence blood transformed into a whirlpool. Long Chen stepped inside, vanishing without a trace. The whirlpool then slammed shut behind him. He had only just left when one figure after another appeared. They were the Devil race's top experts. They possessed the power to destroy heaven and earth. Life-sacrificing blood shield? A traitor has appeared within the Devil race. Lock down Devil Spirit Mountain. These top experts immediately sensed that a secret art of the Devil race had been used, one that could be activated by sacrificing a life to create a transportation formation for another person. Only Devil experts with the purest bloodline could activate it. However, for someone like the All-Devil Heaven Walker, the life he sacrificed might not be his own. He had subordinates who had to know this technique so that they could potentially save their master. As for the Horned King, he also knew this technique because despite his status, he was still one of the All-Devil Heavenwalker's subordinates. If he had to, he would have to use this technique for the All-Devil Heavenwalker. There were two ways to activate this technique. One was voluntarily using it, and one was forcibly activating it. If the subordinate was unwilling to use it, the master could directly kill them to activate the technique. This technique was extremely marvelous and could allow someone to escape with their life. It could be activated quickly and without warning. Long Chen arrived at the Horned King's cave once more and immediately eliminated the two guards. Lightning then flashed around him, and he shot off like a bolt of lightning toward the transportation formation. The lightning made it impossible to see his appearance. Once he arrived at the transportation formation, he waved his hand, unleashing a sea of lightning that wiped away those preparing to use it. Long Chen activated the transportation formation. But right at this moment, the void rumbled. The Devil Race's elders had sent out the order to lock down Devil Spirit Mountain, so a beam of light shot out of the center of the island, sending out chains in every direction. However, Long Chen smiled. The transportation formation had been activated. Furthermore, he had broken the control mechanism, so it was too late for them to restrain him. At the next moment, the void twisted. Long Chen felt himself being drawn in. Boom! A giant hand suddenly fell from the sky, shattering the transportation midway. As a result, Long Chen was torn out of the void and coughed up a mouthful of blood. The void exploded, forming a black hole. Long Chen then forced himself to fly out of it. Otherwise, if he was sucked inside, not even 10 lives would be enough. Fuck, what kind of existence can force me out of a transportation midway? Long Chen was shocked. His whole body was racked in pain. Just now, he had clearly been in the midst of the transportation. He had almost been crushed when that power struck him. That's a late heaven merging expert. According to the martial heaven continent standard, it's someone whose cultivation base has reached the 9th heaven stage of heaven merging, said the heaven-splitting divine tablet. Damn, so this was the power of a late heaven merging expert. Long Chen had actually ended up provoking one, and one that had reached the 9th heaven stage at that. After Long Chen had escaped the suction of the black hole, relying on the memories of the Horned King, he flew toward the exit to the martial heaven continent. Mingyu, are you all right? Long Chen was carrying Dong Mingyu as he sped. Just now, that blow had been so powerful that he was really worried about her. I'm fine. Most of the power was blocked by you, said Dong Mingyu. Her eyes were a bit red from emotion. Just now, she had sensed Long Chen block the majority of that attack for her. From the beginning, she had always been alone. Even her father and mother were devout believers of the Blood Kill Hall, and she was viewed by them as a tool for worshipping the god. In the Blood Kill Hall's emotionless cold-bloodedness, she had never known emotions even as a child. Long Chen smiled toward her comfortingly. This girl really was pitiful. At this moment, the void rumbled and lightning thundered. A terrifying aura filled the world, giving Long Chen goosebumps. He could sense countless terrifying auras coming behind him. The Devil Race's experts were chasing after them. They were incredibly quick. In the blink of an eye, they had closed the gap. In another blink, they were even closer. Right now, Long Chen recalled how heaven-merging experts could tear through the void to travel. That was why they were so fast. However, he also saw the exit up ahead. As long as he exited Devil Spirit Mountain, he wouldn't need to fear these terrifying experts. The stronger the expert, the greater the suppression of the martial heaven continent if they entered. If these heaven-merging experts entered the martial heaven continent at this time, he could kill them as easily as killing Netherpassage experts. However, just as he felt joy, it was extinguished. The exit was covered in countless experts. Millions and millions of them were blocking the exit. Looking at this scene, Long Chen had no idea how the Devil Race had managed to react so quickly. After that, Long Chen felt a chill. He could sense dozens of terrifying auras at the exit as well. Those had to at least be mid-heaven merging experts. Even with his guts, he felt like flying over there would be like a moth flying into a flame. Long Chen, don't worry. I will activate the fragment of the head. It will suppress them to the same cultivation base as you. However, it will only last a single breath's time, so you have to charge out in that breath's time, said the Western Desert Axe. There's such a good thing? Then it's no problem. Long Chen was delighted to hear that. The Eastern Wasteland Bell was amazing. Just a fragment of it possessed such a heaven-defying ability. Fortunately, the Western Desert Axe was present, or he would have no idea how to activate this power. Just as Long Chen was charging over, the Dragonblood Legion on the Martial Heaven continent also launched a fierce attack. Only the Dragonblood Legion was aware that Long Chen and Dong Mingyu had snuck into Devil Spirit Mountain. Hence, they were guarding this place, ready to receive him at any moment. Suddenly seeing the alarms and movements inside Devil Spirit Mountain, how could they not know what had happened? Under Guo Ran's orders, the Dragonblood Legion launched an all-out attack, striking like a sharp dagger. Feng Fei and Yi Lingshan both paled when they saw the huge army of the devil race. They gave the most urgent order for reinforcements. Only now did the Martial Heaven Continent's experts learn that Long Chen had snuck into the home of the devil race, and the Dragonblood Legion was providing support for him. The divine families tightly guarded the exit. However, the Martial Heaven Continent's warriors readily followed the Dragonblood Legion into Devil Spirit Mountain. As a result, once the warriors entered Devil Spirit Mountain, they realized that they had underestimated the Devil Race's army. The Devil Army had plentiful heaven-merging experts. The auras of the mid-heaven merging devils in particular made the warriors quiver. Just what had Long Chen done to invoke such a terrifying reaction from the devil race? They charged into Devil Spirit Mountain, but the heaven-merging devils ignored the commotion. They allowed the cannon fodder to block the Dragonblood Legion and were completely focused on preventing anyone from their side from charging through to the Martial Heaven continent. I see, boss. Heavens, what am I seeing? Exclaimed Guo Ran. He almost fell from the sky when he saw Long Chen. Long Chen was like a bolt of lightning streaking through the air. However, behind Long Chen was a black tide that filled the sky from top to bottom. Just the army in front of Devil Spirit Mountain was frightening enough, but compared to that tide, they were like a drop in the ocean. Just what had his boss done? Had he blown up the headquarters of the devil race? Go all out. Open a path for boss, roared Guo Ran. He began to unleash arrows like meteorites, blasting the devil experts apart. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Lu Rian, and the others also launched crazy attacks. However, there were too many enemies. For every batch that they killed, another batch replaced them. They began to panic. The devil race had created an iron wall of defense. Furthermore, this place was Devil Spirit Mountain, so they were powerless to charge through such a blockade. Can the High Priest or Taoist Heavenly Feather arrive in time? Otherwise, Long Chen might just fall today. Yi Lingshan had also charged in. When she saw Long Chen, she turned pale. Right now, the only ones capable of saving Long Chen were the High Priest or Taoist Heavenly Feather. Brothers, don't panic. Retreat back to the Martial Heaven continent. Today, I will show you my true skill in killing devils. The unrivaled Long Chen is about to take the stage. Just as everyone was panicking, Long Chen's arrogant voice rang out. What? Everyone was stunned. Long Chen was going to charge through the defense created by the devil race's army composed of millions and millions of experts by himself? There were multiple mid-heaven merging existences amongst them. Moreover, there were uncountable early heaven merging devils, and as many Netherpassage experts as hairs on a bull. Such a formation would kill anyone. Hearing his command, not only were the divine families and the Martial Heaven continent's warriors stunned, but even the Dragonblood warriors were stunned as well. However, they listened to his orders. They slowly retreated while keeping an eye on Long Chen. When Long Chen was still many miles from the exit, he suddenly let out a thunderous roar. Divine Ring. Battle Armor. Long Chen's aura exploded. He was like a blazing star charging into the devil race's army. Ignorant human imp, you won't be able to escape, sneered a mid-heaven merging expert. Over 30 mid-heaven merging devils had formed a row in front of Long Chen. Behind them was a mass of early heaven merging devils that were like a net, and further back was a wall made of millions of devil experts. Such a formation was something that not even a mosquito would be able to fly through. What a joke! Why would I run? You look pretty big, so you should have quite a bit of meat. My brother will definitely be happy. Long Chen looked at their leader. He was 300 meters tall and had bulging muscles all over his body. He was definitely a power-type existence. Wild like this kind of food the best. You dare to say such arrogant words with death close at hand. The human race really is foolish, sneered that mid-heaven merging expert. He didn't seem angry. That was because the boss of the devil race had already sent out orders to stop him. They could not permit him to escape, or everyone guarding the exit would be executed. The devil race had never given such harsh orders, so they had no choice but to be cautious. Seeing Long Chen, this devil expert felt like he could crush him with a single palm. However, he didn't act carelessly. To be absolutely sure, they focused only on blocking this path. As long as he couldn't get past them, it would be their victory. They didn't have any intention of killing him personally. With death close at hand? Well said. It seems that you know yourself quite well. Long Chen laughed. In front of everyone's shocked gazes, he really charged at that mid-heaven merging devil expert just like that. The martial heaven continent's side couldn't see him directly, but they had a formation that gave them a line of sight into what was happening. Hence, seeing Long Chen charging like that, people couldn't help letting out startled cries. They had originally thought that Long Chen had said such words to get them angry and then used some technique to get by, for example poison, fire, or lightning. By creating chaos, he might be able to escape. However, it seemed that Long Chen wasn't doing any of that. He was just charging forward without any technique. The leader snorted. He didn't budge, refusing to create an opening in their formation. After that, he unleashed a single fist. However, at this moment, a bronze fragment appeared above Long Chen's head. A wave of light spread from it. In that instant, the martial heaven continent's laws poured into Devil Spirit Mountain and enveloped Long Chen. Long Chen unleashed a single punch as well, facing the mid-heaven merging expert directly. Boom! Even before the two fists could meet, astral winds had clashed and exploded. Shockingly, the mid-heaven merging expert was knocked several steps back. As for the ones behind him, they were sent flying, all of them coughing up blood. Amazing! Long Chen was delighted inside. When the Eastern Wasteland Bell's rune was activated, although their blood chi was unaffected, these devil experts had their auras drop all the way to the Netherpassage realm. After that, Evil Moon appeared in his hand, and with a single slash, a head flew into the sky. Black blood rained down. What? Let alone Feng Fei and Yi Lingshan, even Meng Qi and the others were shocked. Just when had Long Chen become so powerful? They had retreated from the battlefield and were unable to sense that within the divine light, the mid-heaven merging expert's aura had suddenly changed. Those who block me will die. With new confidence, Long Chen roared and attacked again. Another mid-heaven merging expert was cut in two along with their weapon. Am I dreaming? Guoran couldn't believe his eyes. Those were mid-heaven merging experts. Back then, the entire Dragonblood Legion working together had been forced to retreat. It was only thanks to a lucky stroke from Wild that they had managed to kill him. However, such terrifying existences were being cut down one by one? Had the world gone mad? Long Chen suddenly swept out with his blade. Saber light slashed out of Evil Moon, cutting the world in two. Countless corpses then flew through the air. A crack finally appeared in the wall, revealing Long Chen. Over 10 of the mid-heaven merging experts were killed by this single strike from Long Chen. As for the rest, they began to collapse. At some point, a small bloody hole appeared in their heads. No one saw how they died. Their absolute defense was finally broken. Long Chen then charged over to the martial heaven continent's side, and he even had time to gather the mid-heaven merging experts' corpses. Just as he was about to reach the martial heaven continent and the Dragonblood warriors were cheering fiercely, a large hand stretched out from the depths of Devil Spirit Mountain. When that hand appeared, endless devil chi filled the air. Space and time froze. Long Chen felt everything come to a stop. Not good. A late heaven-merging expert. Long Chen's expression changed. This fellow had arrived shockingly fast, attacking right after the rune from the fragment of the Eastern Wasteland Bell was completely used up. Everything had been going smoothly before this hand appeared. Moreover, this was the hand that had interrupted Long Chen's transportation. Now that it reappeared, the experts on the martial heaven continent's side felt like their souls were being squeezed, as if a bit more force would cause their souls to explode. This was a level of power that brought despair. The difference between them was simply too great. Long Chen suddenly grabbed Dong Mingyu, who had been forced out of the void, and threw her out of Devil Spirit Mountain. Big brother Long Chen. Dong Mingyu let out a startled cry. She knew that Long Chen was unable to dodge in this state, so he could only face this terrifying hand directly. But how could he receive this attack? Long Chen could only face the giant hand directly. Despite knowing that he might very likely be turned to dust after this attack, it was not fear flowing out of him but a soaring will to fight instead. He felt no negative emotions. All he knew was that the only thing that could save his life was a full power attack. His eyes suddenly turned scarlet, and a berserk fury unfurled. Even within Devil Spirit Mountain with different laws of the world, the heavens were still affected by Long Chen's anger. The void rumbled. It was as if millions of stars were exploding, as if the God who had created the world was now destroying it. Split the heavens 9. As a giant black saber image pierced through the heavens, fury raged through the world. Black chi exploded out of Evil Moon, and a furious dragon roar rang out, causing a resonance with heaven and earth. Long Chen and Evil Moon's combined power was fully unleashed in one blow. Boom! The giant hand struck the heaven-splitting blade directly. As a result, the void shattered and cracked to the end of the world. Countless stars in the cosmos shuddered as if they were about to fall. Not good. The phenomenon that the old man warned me about has appeared. My power isn't balanced. Long Chen's heart turned cold. The old man had repeatedly said that he had to control his anger to unleash the 9th form of Split the Heavens. His power had to be balanced perfectly before he attacked. Otherwise, although this technique could still be unleashed, it would leave behind a serious internal injury. If such injuries accumulated over time, they would slowly cripple a person. Long Chen clearly hadn't properly balanced his power just now. Adding on the pressure from his opponent, all his bones were crushed. He received an instantaneous heavy injury. However, the fact was that Long Chen had managed to block that attack. Both the Martial Heaven Continent's people and the Devil Race's experts were shocked. The Devil Race's experts in particular knew who had just attacked. That was a peak expert of their Devil Race, and Long Chen had actually blocked their killing blow. The hand crumbled, however, another hand condensed in the sky once more, reaching toward Long Chen, this time with even greater pressure. Seeing this scene, Long Chen hastily used the Primal Chaos Space's life energy to heal. He raised Evil Moon once again. Although on the surface he looked like he had recovered, Long Chen was well aware of just how serious his injury was. This injury was partially from himself and partially from that devil expert. If he had to block his attack a second time, he would probably die. But space had been suppressed, and he had no other choice. Just at this moment, a fluctuation spread from the heaven-splitting divine tablet. It flew out on its own, surprising Long Chen. Long Chen out of the way. Suddenly, a shout rang out. Long Chen looked over to see that at some point, the old man had entered Devil Spirit Mountain. The heaven-splitting blade blazed with light. Split the heavens 9. The old man also unleashed the same technique, however, this time, the frozen space instantly collapsed. Long Chen was sent flying back toward the Martial Heaven Continent by the old man's power and was caught by Chu Yao. When a giant saber image appeared in the sky, the void collapsed, fragments of space-time flying through the air. That appearance was many times greater than what Long Chen had caused. Seeing the heaven-splitting divine tablet appear behind him, Long Chen understood that it was supporting the old man's all-out attack. Boom! As the saber fell, the giant hand instantly shattered, And the saber image continued. All those touched by it were blasted to bits. The saber image appeared as if it would continue to the ends of the world. It was as if the entire world was going to be cut in two. This attack. Countless people were stunned by this attack. Just how was the old man capable of unleashing such an attack? He was only at the peak of Netherpassage. When the saber was about to reach the army of the devil race at the rear, an elder suddenly appeared before them. He smashed a staff at the saber image. As a result, the saber image exploded, unleashing a blast of astral winds that sent the nearby devil experts flying like falling leaves. Only the elder continued standing there. Shameless old thing, you actually attacked a child at your age? If you have the guts, why don't you come over and fight me? Let's see if I can cut you into 9918 pieces, shouted the old man furiously. It's 81, reminded Long Chen. You shut up. You've lost the face of the heaven-splitting battle sect. What kind of crap was that? Is the ninth form of split the heavens used like that? How many times have I told you about it, yet you still made that mistake? If it weren't for this deed you accomplished, I'd really beat you, shouted the old man. Long Chen shrugged, cursing himself for being so bored as to find trouble for himself. The old man was in the heaven's wrath state. Arguing with him about what 99 meant was truly stupid. The devil elder glared at the old man. Light circulated in his eyes as his aura grew. It seemed that he was preparing for a battle. However, when he looked at the martial heaven continent, his rising aura suddenly stopped. He snorted, the martial heaven continent's destiny has come to an end. You are just struggling on your deathbed. Enjoy your final moments. So what if you reclaim the Western Desert Axe? A half-dead Western Desert Axe won't save you. The elder waved his staff, and the giant army slowly retreated into the depths of Devil Spirit Mountain. Long Chen followed the final gaze of that elder and saw the high priest and Taoist heavenly feather. So he had been restrained by their existence. What? The Western Desert Axe. Others didn't see the high priest or Taoist heavenly feather, but hearing that elder mention the Western Desert Axe, it was like a bolt of lightning had struck them. They stared at Long Chen in shock. Long Chen, you found the Western Desert Axe? Asked Chu Jianying emotionally. Long Chen saw that other than the high priest and Taoist heavenly feather, even the divine family's Lord Venerate and 4 family heads had come. He hesitated for a moment but still waved his hand in the end. A giant rusty axe fell to the ground, and a giant hole was smashed into the earth. Despite the specks of rust covering it, its ancient aura still came out strongly. Its powerful murderous aura shook the people. The Western Desert Axe. It really is the Western Desert Axe. The senior experts let out startled cries because this axe was identical to the one described in legends. That aura was unmistakable. Only one of the 5 supreme divine items could possess that aura. The Western Desert Axe has had its source energy extracted. It might not. Taoist Heavenly Feather looked at it worriedly. She wanted to say that it might not have the power to fight when the battle started. However, such depressing words weren't appropriate at this time. She didn't want to give a blow to everyone's emotions. This is a good axe. Brother Long, can I have it? Wild was stuffing his face with meat, but his eyes lit up when he saw the Western Desert Axe. This kind of giant weapon was his favorite. The blood barbarian race? Ha, good, very good. It seems that I can finally return to my old glory. The Western Desert Axe's voice suddenly rang out, startling everyone. Both the Northern Source Sword and the Southern Sea Zither were mysterious, and the outside world had never heard their voices. Senior Western Desert, Long Chen was also surprised. Long Chen, you saved me. Actually, I should take you as my master, but your power doesn't match mine. Moreover, this little fellow is most suited to me, and I also need his blood chi to recover as fast as possible, said the Western Desert Axe. Do you really want to be my weapon? Exclaimed Wild excitedly. Foolish fellow, if you want to control me, you have to pay an immense price. You'll have to dash. Before the Western Desert Axe could finish speaking, Wild was already agreeing. I want it. Do you need blood chi? I eat meat every day. My blood chi is always strong. You can take as much as you want. I need a good weapon to help my brother Long beat bad people. As long as you can help me, I'm willing. Hearing such foolish words from this simple-headed brother of his, Long Chen felt a burst of emotion. Wild had followed him for a long time. However, lately, he hadn't been able to help much when the crisis descended. He had been feeling anxious about this for a long time. Seeing this terrifying weapon before him, a weapon which he particularly liked as a heavy-type weapon, he greatly desired it. Although Emon Yen had given him the door bolt, which wasn't bad, it was an entity from the netherworld. It was unable to form a connection with Wild's blood chi. Furthermore, using it was very uncomfortable. There was nowhere to grip it. Wild only used it because he didn't have a more suitable weapon. Just as the legends say, the blood barbarian race's people are all muscle heads. Fine, I won't say anything else. Let us fight alongside each other. The Western Desert Axe's body suddenly shrank until it was about 10 meters long. It floated over toward Wild. When it fell on Wild, Wild let out a startled cry. For strange bloody bones grew out of his back, and the Western Desert Axe landed on them. When the ground beneath his feet shattered, his shout grew louder. Little fellow, I need to form a connection with your blood. This is a painful process. If you can't handle it, you can give up at any moment, shouted the Western Desert Axe. I won't. I won't even if I have to die. Wild clenched his teeth, and blood dripped out of his mouth. Only he knew how much pain he was in. The Western Desert Axe was one of the 5 supreme divine items. It was called the killing tool of the 5 divine items, so it had killed countless life forms. To become its master required experiencing its domineering side. Looking at this scene, Long Chen clenched his fists so hard that his fingernails drew blood. Wild was his first real brother. From the moment Long Chen had received a whip for him in the Phoenix Cry Empire, Long Chen had viewed him as his brother. He was like a child that couldn't grow up, so Long Chen refused to allow him to be wronged. Wild's emotions were all pure. Now, for him, Wild was experiencing immense pain. Long Chen was unable to bear this, but he also couldn't help him. Long Chen, it's fine. The Western Desert Axe won't harm Wild. Meng Qi lightly held Long Chen's hand. Long Chen nodded. He also trusted the Western Desert Axe, but he didn't like seeing Wild in pain. Boom. Suddenly the earth trembled. As a wave of pressure blew apart the clouds, a vast aura soared. Upon looking back at Wild, an image had appeared on his forehead. That was the image of the Western Desert Axe. As the image slowly faded, Wild's large body began to wither. In just a few breaths' time, he had shrunk a whole level. At the same time, bubbles appeared and popped on the Western Desert Axe. The rust slowly fell away. As the rust fell, it revealed a golden body. The Western Desert Axe was actually golden. However, only a small portion of the rust had fallen away. As for Wild, he was almost skin and bones now. Wild seemed to have expected this and began to rip into a large leg. That was the leg of the mid-heaven merging devil expert he had bitten to death. Only his 2 legs remained. As Wild's blood chi was sucked away, he quickly replenished it. The intense hunger made his eyes redden. The first leg was quickly finished. He took out another leg and finished it as well. However, the hunger didn't fade. Dong Mingyu quickly took out the devil corpses that she had killed. Hence, Wild began a feast. That bloody sight made other people's hair stand on end. However, the Western Desert Axe had chosen Wild as master, so the Martial Heaven Continent's experts were filled with excitement. They had gained another layer of protection for the Dark Era. Congratulations! The return of the Western Desert Axe is a grand occasion for the Martial Heaven Continent. The Divine Family's Lord Venerate spoke to the High Priest. The High Priest indifferently smiled. It should be congratulations to all parties. The High Priest merely spat out a few words as if this had nothing to do with him. It was as if he was just a spectator. The Lord Venerate turned to Long Chen. Long Chen, you've done a great deed for the Martial Heaven Continent. Who would have thought that the Western Desert Axe was trapped in Devil Spirit Mountain? Now that the laws of the other worlds are fusing with the Martial Heaven Continent's laws, It won't be long before the best time to break through to heaven merging comes. However, that is the same for our enemies. They will immediately make their breakthroughs when that time comes. Whoever finishes first will have an absolute advantage. Don't be careless. Many thanks for your warning, Lord Venerate. I understand. Long Chen cupped his fists. The Lord Venerate nodded. He said some courteous words to the High Priest, Taoist Heavenly Feather, and the Music Master before leaving with his people. As they left, two people were glaring at Long Chen enviously. Those two were Yi Liangchen and Jiang Wuchen. The two of them had been defeated by the All-Devil Heaven Walker within the Martial Heaven continent, so that was an extraordinary shame for them. Now, right after they had been beaten, Long Chen immediately gave a blow back to the Devil race and even managed to snatch the Western Desert Axe from their hold. Their defeat only set off Long Chen's success. The two of them were furious, but at the very least, they were comforted by the fact that Long Chen hadn't encountered the All-Devil Heaven Walker. If Long Chen had managed to fight him evenly without getting defeated or even defeat him, the two of them would need to find somewhere to kill themselves without anyone else seeing. Long Chen, don't be too pleased. Once I advance to heaven merging and activate the spirit bone, I will awaken supreme divine abilities. You will be trampled beneath my feet. Yi Liangchen stealthily transmitted a few words to Long Chen as he left. However, Long Chen didn't even glance at him. It was as if he hadn't received the message, which angered Yi Liangchen so much that he turned ashen. The divine family's people left. But the Martial Heaven continent's experts stayed. They were all excited as Long Chen's power filled them with confidence. Eventually, since no one was leaving, Chu Jianying was forced to give orders for some people to return to their posts. At the very least, they had to maintain enough forces at the entrances to the Yin-Yang world and the corrupt God cemetery. Yi Lingshan and Feng Fei had both activated the alarm of the highest urgency, resulting in everyone thinking that the Devil race was launching a large-scale attack. That was why the majority of their battle power had been called over, weakening the other areas. The High Priest said a few words to Long Chen, telling him to be careful before leaving. After that, Taoist Heavenly Feather and the Music Master also left. Old man, you really are badass today. How did you do this? When there were just a few people left, Long Chen turned to the old man excitedly. This was his first time feeling such worship for the old man. That attack of his had been truly amazing. Haha, after wasting half a lifetime, how can I not be badass one time? Ha! The old man was even more excited than Long Chen. With the High Priest and the others gone, he finally grew unrestrained. You old fool, you're acting like this in front of children? Scolded Chu Jianying. If it was Long Chen acting like this, then fine. But an old fellow like the old man was also acting without the slightest presence of mind for what it meant to be an expert. What's wrong with it? Men are coarse. Hee, the heaven-splitting divine tablet is finally back. Who can still scare me? The old man patted his chest heroically. Chu Jianying originally wanted the old man to reserve himself a bit, but seeing how excited he was, her heart softened. She understood the old man the best. As the sect leader of the heaven-splitting battle sect, just like his predecessors, he had seen his sect declining for many years. As a matter of fact, consecutive generations of sect leaders were unable to reverse the tide, dying with thoughts of the heaven-splitting divine tablet in their minds. Reclaiming the heaven-splitting divine tablet had been the dream of generations of experts from the heaven-splitting battle sect. It was unknown just how many heroes had their bones buried in Devil Spirit Mountain for this goal. Now it had finally returned. If Chu Jianying was in his position, she would already be crying from emotion. Hence, she understood the old man's inner emotions. Chu Jianying patted the old man's shoulder, whispering, "That's right. No one can scare you any longer. You are the strongest." Chu Jianying had a rare softness to her face now. She seemed to be recalling their youth, and it was like she could see the grand and domineering old man from back then again. Congratulations. Starting from today, the heaven-splitting battle sect's name should be changed. The name of the heaven-splitting divine sect will once more appear on the Martial Heaven continent. No one will dare to question the name of the world's #1 sect, said Li Tianxian. The Heaven-Splitting Battle Sect had originally been called the Heaven-Splitting Divine Sect. However, ever since the Heaven-Splitting Divine Tablet was shattered and half of it was taken away, the sect started to decline. In the midst of that decline, misfortune suddenly began to befall the sect repeatedly, almost causing its destruction. That generation's sect leader realized the reason and changed the name of the sect, turning it from the Divine Sect to the Battle Sect. Although changing the name didn't restore the glory of the sect, the string of misfortune finally broke. Later on, everyone else realized that a sect couldn't be called divine randomly. Without reaching the necessary level, karma would befall a sect. That was why the Heaven-Splitting Divine Sect had been renamed. Now that the Divine Tablet had been returned, it signified that its name could be changed back. That's right. The name of the Heaven-Splitting Divine Sect is going to be reinstated. We'll hold a grand ceremony. The old man grabbed Long Chen and began to leave. Guoran, you can rest. Don't worry about the all-devil Heaven Walker. He's in seclusion and won't come out in a short time, called out Long Chen as he was dragged away. From the Horned King's memories, Long Chen learned that the all-devil Heaven Walker had entered seclusion after that battle. He was in seclusion at the entrance to the Devil World at the bottom of the Devil Sea. One reason Long Chen had chosen to sneak over there was to see if he could close the portal to the Devil World, but the other reason was to see if he could eliminate the all-devil Heaven Walker. However, he didn't end up encountering the all-devil Heaven Walker. Instead, he found the Western Desert Axe, and in order to allow people to feel more confident, he didn't hide this information from them. Old man, you really are amazing. How did you do this? You shattered the attack from a 9th Heaven Stage Heaven Merging expert and almost injured him. What kind of trick was behind that? Can you teach me? Good things should be shared. Don't be selfish. It really was amazing. That elder from the devil race almost pissed himself, said Long Chen as he was dragged by the old man. He was still stunned by how powerful the old man's attack had been. What's so amazing about it? After that one attack, I used up all my energy. I was just scaring him off. If he had attacked, I would have definitely died, transmitted the old man. Ah. My ass. The old man and Long Chen stepped onto a transportation formation and returned to the Heaven-Splitting Battle Sect. When they walked out, the old man cursed him, "You little bastard, I was sacrificing my life to save you this time. If it wasn't for the Heaven-Splitting Divine Tablet helping me block the majority of the backlash from the Heavenly Daos, I'd be dead. Do you really think I'm so badass that I can challenge a 9th Heaven Stage Heaven Merging expert?" Long Chen was startled as well as moved. So the old man had actually charged out and been willing to throw his life away to save him when he saw him in danger. At that time, the old man hadn't even realized that Long Chen had brought back the Heaven-Splitting Divine Tablet. Hence, it could be seen that the old man viewed Long Chen's life as even more important than his own. As this little life of his had been brought back by the old man, Long Chen didn't know what to say. After that, the old man brought Long Chen to a giant bell that was covered in years of dust. As he repeatedly struck it, the Heaven-Splitting Battle Sect's disciples began to rush over, all of them startled. This great bell was something that could only be rung in a life or death moment for the Heaven-Splitting Battle Sect. It was said that it was never rung again after the Heaven-Splitting Divine Tablet was fractured. For the old man to be ringing it personally, all members of the sect, male, female, old, young, and the family members of disciples rushed over. Even some living fossils came out. "Little Yuanzi, are you looking for a beating? You're ringing this bell for nothing? You almost shook me to death. Are you looking for vengeance for my previous beatings?" An old man, who was so wrinkled that his face looked like tree bark, tottered over. His eyes weren't even open. It looked like a stiff breeze could blow him down. When Long Chen saw him, he couldn't help jumping in shock. This old fellow's body was one with the Tao. He was a heaven-merging expert. There wasn't just one of them either. Long Chen had never imagined that the Heaven-Splitting Battle Sect had 3 heaven-merging experts. "Oh, not bad. Little Yuanzi, you have some vision. You managed to raise at least one good fellow. Ah, good, leave him for me to raise and I'll spare you from your punishment for this offense." When the three elders saw Long Chen, they immediately reacted. They no longer looked like tottering old fellows. It was as if they had just seen a treasure. "Do you three old fellows have any face left? Long Chen was raised by me, and you want the credit?" cursed the old man. Bao Buping, Chang Hao, and the others also arrived. They were surprised by these three elders. Just who were they? They had never seen or even heard of them. Greetings to the three ancestors. On the other hand, Boss Bao and the others recognized the three elders, so they hastily paid their respects. These three elders were essentially living fossils of the heaven-splitting battle sect, and their seniority was so high that it was a bit frightening. In terms of seniority, these three elders were at least 3 generations above the old man. They were true living fossils. As they were usually in seclusion, the heaven-splitting battle sect's disciples had never seen them. Even Boss Bao and the others had not seen them before and only knew of their existence. Today, the old man had awakened these 3 living fossils, so everyone looked at the old man, not knowing what news he was going to announce. "Long Chen, hee, little Long Zi, this old man sees your talent. Your constitution is excellent. You are a rare once-in-100-year, no, a once-in-1,000-year martial prodigy. I'm willing to accept you as my apprentice. What do you think? Take me as your master, and I guarantee that I will pass down all my knowledge and comprehension to you. Furthermore, if my guess is right, you must have suffered quite a bit from this little brat's temper, right? Take me as master, and that brat Wu Guangyuan will have to call you master ancestor according to seniority. Think about it. Wouldn't that feel amazing?" The old fellow ignored the furious old man, instead trying to entice Long Chen. Long Chen was dumbfounded. Just who were these 3 old fellows? Could it be that people grew more impish the older they got? Why didn't they have the slightest manner of a senior? Master, apprentice is right here. We are both exceptionally talented with excellent constitutions. Accept us. Bao Buping and Chang Hao immediately kowtowed to them, shouting loudly. As a result, the old man struck them with his cane and sent them tumbling back. What exceptional talent! You think you can take advantage of me? The old man glanced at the 2 of them disdainfully. That's enough. You 3 undying fellows, have your heads rotted after lying in your coffins for too long? Shouldn't you consider whether or not you're even qualified to accept him as an apprentice? Do you not want to live any longer? Long Chen's status was something that Li Tianxian had vaguely hinted at to the old man. When Long Chen had first met the old man had grown fond of him and wanted to take him as his apprentice. At that time, using his status, he had been so shameless as to ask the Xiantian Dao sect to let him take Long Chen in. This was an extremely secret affair. Other than Li Tianxian and the old Xian master, there was not another person aware of it. However, Li Tianxian did not dare to say anything directly. All he said was that to Long Chen, the Xiantian Dao sect was just a jumping-off point. Shallow waters could not contain a dragon. There was no one within the martial heaven continent who could be Long Chen's master. Anyone who did would definitely die. As a result, the old man was dumbfounded by such a vague response. He suddenly thought that with Long Chen's aptitude, Li Tianxian himself should have long since taken him as his apprentice. But Long Chen was still remaining in the Xiantian Dao sect without a master. Later on, the old man suddenly thought of a possibility and was stunned. It was at that time that he abandoned any thoughts of being Long Chen's master. This was what resulted in the Xiantian Dao sect and the heaven-splitting battle sect sharing a disciple. This was the first time such a thing had occurred in all their history. The old man had guessed Long Chen's status, but he was not as sure as Li Tianxian. But as Long Chen grew, he saw more clues. Now that these 3 old living fossils wanted to be Long Chen's master, the old man almost wanted to slap them. But he also worried about not being able to beat them, so he merely cursed them. As a result, the 3 elders were startled by the old man's words. Looking at Long Chen, they seemed to understand something and didn't bring up this matter again. Everyone listen up. Kneel in respect for the heaven-splitting divine tablet's return. The old man suddenly grew serious, and his voice resounded throughout heaven and earth. Hearing that the heaven-splitting divine tablet had returned, everyone, including the 3 living fossils, was stunned. After the old man formed some hand seals, the heaven-splitting divine tablet appeared before everyone. The 2 halves of the tablet appeared, illuminating the desolate heaven-splitting battle sect with divine light. At this moment, the sect's very aura changed like spring was returning to a withered tree. Respect to the divine tablet. Along with the 3 elders, everyone from the heaven-splitting battle sect knelt emotionally, and countless people were weeping. This day had finally come. Long Chen was dumbfounded. Since the old man was kneeling, did he have to kneel as well? Wouldn't it be too rude not to kneel? But other than to his father and mother, he wasn't used to kneeling to anyone else. However, thinking of how the old man had treated him like a son and been willing to sacrifice his life for him, Long Chen followed along. But suddenly, divine light swept out of the heaven-splitting divine tablet, making everyone stand. Seeing this scene, Long Chen was happy that he didn't need to kneel. As the 2 halves of the heaven-splitting divine tablet slowly merged, heaven and earth quivered. Suddenly, Bao Buping and the others' auras began to rapidly rise, growing sharper like blades. As a result, Long Chen jumped in shock, staring in disbelief at them. What's going on? Bao Buping and the others' cultivation bases hadn't changed. Instead, their auras were growing sharper and fiercer, as if a beast was awakening. Upon looking at them, even Long Chen's heart shook. It can't be. Long Chen suddenly thought of something and was filled with envy. This was a pleasant surprise. The Heaven's Wrath rune. I no longer need to worry about not being able to control it. Who doesn't submit to me now? I'll directly slash them to death. Bao Buping suddenly laughed crazily and jumped excitedly. The heaven-splitting divine tablet had returned, and its primordial runes had been restored. Because of it, all disciples of the heaven-splitting battle sect automatically awakened the Heaven's Wrath rune, which allowed them to enter the Heaven's Wrath state much easier. Furthermore, once they were in that state, this rune would help block the majority of the backlash from the heavenly Daos. Even if they didn't balance their energy perfectly, the hidden wounds would be prevented, so they could freely unleash their full potential. Before this, without the protection of the heaven-splitting divine tablet, they had to use their own power to block that backlash, so the majority of their power had to be focused on defending themselves against it. Now, they could be unrestrained. After seeing this, Long Chen understood why it felt like their auras had suddenly grown. It was his senses telling him that their killing power had explosively grown. Amazing! Long Chen was also emotional. The heaven-splitting divine tablet had returned, and every disciple of the sect had suddenly grown stronger. Although they might not be able to beat the Dragonblood warriors, they were definitely the strongest squad below the Dragonblood warriors. Even Feng Fei, Long Outyen, and the others' guards would have to stand aside. Regretfully, Long Chen didn't cultivate the battle god's sacred canon, so the return of the heaven-splitting divine tablet didn't change anything for him. He could only envy them. The disciples cheered, not even knowing how to express their current emotions. They were originally unqualified to even train in the 9th form of Split the Heavens, but the return of the divine tablet had changed that. Now, every person in the sect could train in it. As the disciples cheered, the experts of the senior generation wept. Consecutive generations had died unwillingly, unable to see the return of the heaven-splitting divine tablet. They had passed away filled with regret. However, the divine tablet had returned in their generation, so those old fellows were filled with joy. Thinking of the hopes of their ancestors, they couldn't hold back their tears. Long child, well done. Well done. The 3 ancestors were extremely moved. Even their voices were choked up. They had never thought that such a day would come in their lifetime. Their dream had become a reality thanks to Long Chen. The old man wiped away his own tears. Child, we must repair the soul of the heaven-splitting divine tablet, and this requires all our faith energy to resonate with it. It will take at least 10 days before it fully recovers. But since your cultivation technique is different, you can't help here. On the other hand, the battlefield needs you, you should go back. When the divine tablet is fully recovered, the heaven-splitting divine sect will be your firmest backer. We will create rivers of blood and once more show the glory of the world's #1 sect. The old man had brought Long Chen here so that everyone would know that Long Chen was the one who had brought back the heaven-splitting divine tablet. This was something that he had to be part of. But now that it was over, he could leave because they would need to focus all their power on helping the divine tablet recover. Once it did, the heaven-splitting divine sect would once more dominate this world. Right now, the old man no longer looked so old. The return of the heaven-splitting divine tablet made him appear much sharper. After that, Long Chen nodded. He wasn't able to help them with this. Looking at Bao Buping and the others messing around, Long Chen was afraid that he would die of envy. It just so happened that he was worried about Wild, so he rushed back. Once Long Chen said goodbye to the ancestors and set foot on the transportation formation, one of the 3 ancestors turned to the old man. Is he really that legendary existence? Although I can't say that I'm sure, it's very likely. The old man nodded. He didn't have Li Tianquan's confidence in this, or he wouldn't have risked death to save him today. But no such existence has ever reached the heaven-merging realm in all of history, the ancestor frowned. Long Chen is different from them. I trust that he will definitely pass the tribulation. Even a sovereign calls him brother, so how could he be someone with such a short life? Said the old man. A sovereign calls him brother? Is that really true? The 3 ancestors were shocked by this information. Of course it's true. Sovereign Mo Li met Long Chen in front of Devil Spirit Mountain, and everyone from the Martial Heaven continent saw it. Furthermore, Sovereign Mo Li appeared in his last heavenly tribulation. He definitely isn't an ordinary person. That's why I can't confirm his status. If he really is that legendary existence, why would the sovereign grow so close to him? Said the old man. The old man felt that it was very likely that Long Chen was a heaven defier. However, heaven defiers always died to the heavenly Daos. To oppose the heavenly Daos was to also oppose the Dao of the sovereigns, yet Sovereign Mo Li called Long Chen brother, so that muddled things. However, there was one point that was sure. That was that Sovereign Mo Li had a high opinion of Long Chen, so Long Chen definitely wasn't ordinary. He wears black robes. He definitely isn't the 6th generation sovereign. How curious. Well, how could juniors like us see through the sovereign's thoughts? Let him be. Since he is a member of the heaven-splitting battle sect, no, it should be the heaven-splitting divine sect. Since he is one of our disciples, even if he hasn't done so much for the sect, we still have to fully support him. Follow him through wind and fire. We can't be bothered to think any further about it. I actually managed to come out at this time. I can also show off a bit, laughed the ancestor. That's enough. We should hurry and focus on the divine source. Offer worship to the divine tablet to allow it to fully recover. The old man quickly gave orders. After that, the disciples knelt all around the heaven-splitting divine tablet. Divine light flew out of them, entering the tablet. At this moment, the tablet's runes lit up and enveloped the sect. The energy from both sides formed a cycle. As endless divine light flowed from the divine tablet to the disciples and back, the entire sect quivered. It was as if an ancient beast was slowly awakening. Once it woke up, it would shake the world. When Long Chen returned to Devil Spirit Mountain, the first thing he did was look for Wild. However, Wild was nowhere to be found. Where is Wild? Asked Long Chen. The Western Desert Axe brought Wild away, saying that they were going somewhere with plenty of meat that could keep Wild full. They then vanished, said Meng Qi. Long Chen nodded. The Western Desert Axe was one of the 5 supreme divine items. Since it had chosen Wild, it wouldn't harm him. However, it had had its source energy extracted, so it had chosen Wild due to his immense blood qi. For an existence like one of the 5 supreme divine items to thicken its face enough to absorb Wild's blood qi, it would definitely have to repay him with enough benefits. It must know where to go to recover as fast as possible. But that method required Wild. Has there been any movement in Devil Spirit Mountain? Asked Long Chen. Not at all. Other than some ants, the other experts have retreated, answered Guoran. It could be said that Long Chen had given the devil race a vicious blow this time. Not only had he killed many of their experts, but he had even released the Western Desert Axe. If the All-Devil Heaven Walker learned of this, he would probably die of rage. He had originally wanted to avenge the humiliation of a chamber pot pillow, only for Long Chen to strike back and make the devil race pay such a price. "Xia Chen, have things been arranged with the original devil race?" asked Long Chen. Xia Chen nodded. "Everything is done. The space-tearing formation has also been set up. If they notice something wrong, they can crush their talismans to be brought away." Feeling aggrieved at the losses of the original devil race from last time, Long Chen had immediately ordered an emergency transportation formation to be built by Xia Chen to protect their lives. For this, Xia Chen had spent an enormous amount of resources. Fortunately, the Dragon Blood Legion was extremely wealthy now. Long Chen nodded. This way, the original devil race's disciples could retreat if the All-Devil Heaven Walker returned. "Other than that, I also sent over the Devil's Soul-Gathering Spirit Pearl," whispered Xia Chen. This Devil's Soul-Gathering Spirit Pearl was recently condensed by Xia Chen. It was useless to humans but a priceless treasure to the original devil race. They could use its devil chi to rapidly advance their cultivation bases. Xia Chen had stealthily set up the formation in order to condense this pearl when the channel to Devil Spirit Mountain was set up. Even the divine families were unaware of it. In any case, any experts of the devil race that died on that battlefield would have their soul essence absorbed by the formation and locked into the Devil's Soul-Gathering Spirit Pearl. If the original devil race's warriors were present, they could also absorb it, but that would be slightly wasteful. The formation made sure to gather it all. When Long Chen had killed those mid-heaven merging experts, along with the old man's attack that had killed innumerable others, the pearl had instantly filled up. After that, Xia Chen hastily switched it with an empty one, and then to be safe, he arranged for there to be multiple pearls to store the energy. Right now, everyone in front of Devil Spirit Mountain was calm. Feng Fei stood guard on the left, while Yi Lingshan stood guard on the right. After that battle, Feng Fei's temper became much more reserved. She was no longer as impossibly arrogant with the Martial Heaven Continent's people, so Yi Lingshan had a much easier time communicating with her. Whether it was Long Chen's achievements or that attack from the old man, they all showed Feng Fei that the Martial Heaven Continent still had power. She understood far too little about it, resulting in her feeling so superior. After that day, she finally understood why the divine families had to work together with the Martial Heaven Continent. They truly possessed the qualifications to speak equally with the divine families. That battle had shaken the entire Martial Heaven Continent. Furthermore, Long Chen had succeeded in his goal of raising their morale. He had entered Devil Spirit Mountain and taken back the Western Desert Axe. Moreover, he had slain their mid-heaven merging experts. They felt even greater confidence in him and for the upcoming Battle of Darkness. Although Long Chen wasn't a sovereign, all his accomplishments were not inferior to a sovereign. Hence, the people's feelings of despair were gradually expelled. Even people that were unable to fight on the battlefield made their own contributions without asking for any reward. They helped the Martial Heaven Alliance construct many transportation formations. Some sects even tore down their own transportation formations and used the materials to build grand formations for the entire continent. When the battle started, the Martial Heaven Continent would be assaulted from multiple areas. There would not be just one battlefield. Hence, they had to keep up enough transportation formations to reinforce every area. Although heaven merging experts could tear through the void, when the battle started, the heavenly Daos would become unstable, and teleportation arts would also become shaky. At a critical moment, it would be best to use transportation formations. Because these things could save lives, they built as many as possible. After all, some might be broken in battle, so having backups was necessary. Under immense pressure, people saw hope. They were united. Even the waves from the original devil race's return were settled. During the next few days, Long Chen had a rare moment of peace where he didn't need to do anything. He spent time with Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and the others. These days passed peacefully. Lu Ruyan summoned her true body, bringing them above the clouds. This was the only place where it was possible to see night and day. They were so high up that the spiritual qi in the air became faint. Lu Ruyan didn't have the Mother Tree's ability, resulting in this place not being suitable for cultivation. However, Long Chen and everyone else had reached the great circle of Netherpassage, and they didn't need to cultivate. All they needed to do was wait for the day for them to advance for heaven merging. There was a small cabin on the top of Lu Ruyan's crown, and tinkling laughter occasionally rang out from it. Lying on the giant leaves, Long Chen looked at the starry sky. Hearing their laughter, he felt at peace. If it wasn't for the dark clouds below, he might even forget all his past vexations. However, he had too many secrets in his heart. Furthermore, he was incapable of sharing them with others and could only silently suffer. However, no matter how great the pressure was on him, whenever he saw Meng Qi and the others' expectant gazes or the Dragon Blood Warrior's fiery hopes, he felt limitless drive. He had everything that he needed. Perhaps this was human life. Sweetness was mixed with bitterness. Joy and sadness were two parts of the same whole. The path of every person's life was impossible to guess. Hearing their soft voices, Long Chen closed his eyes and fell asleep. Long Chen, I've thought of it. Suddenly, Evelmun's laughter rang out in Long Chen's mind, scaring him awake. He almost fell from the tree. You're tuning in to the Passion Page's YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.